You're live.
Thank you. Welcome, or should I say good afternoon, to Barstool Baseball. Carl here, joined by Clemmer in New York. This is a long-anticipated date, as long as you and I have talked about doing programming together for Barstool Baseball.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. Let's go. Trade deadline, baby. We even got a big one off the bat. This is one of my 5 favorite days of the year. Easy. I'm so amped up. This is awesome. This is my favorite thing in the world. Trades, players moving left and right. You got buyers, you got sellers, you got teams like the stupid Yankees staying in neutral. This is gonna be great.
And so thanks everybody who's tuned in right now. We're putting the stream out, tweeting it out, and just kind of letting this fill up for a second. Obviously, I joke off the top with Clemmer. I mean, it is true that you and I have talked a lot about, man, it's going to be great when we can do the trade deadline coverage. That's a show we've been looking forward to. At no point in these conversations were we talking about it'll be great because you'll be there to react to the Mets fire sale. So this is legendary moment.
I thought I'd be here talking about all the moves the Mets are making to improve the team. I thought it would be like, oh, wow, here we go. We're going to load up for our World Series run. Let's go. Maybe we go out and get that big starter. You know, we go out and get that big DH. I thought that's the moves that we were going to be talking about on August 1st. Instead, we traded away a Hall of Fame pitcher today, a couple of days after trading away another Hall of Fame pitcher. So it's been that kind of year. That's why I have all these gray hairs.
These Met, like, and I can't say it enough. Our back-end producer, Colin Cooper, thank you for being with us. He's a diehard Mets fan. Phil, who does our social media, he's a diehard Mets fan. They're all over the place at this company. And I got a blog I want to publish later that's basically an outsider perspective on Steve Cohen. I think if I was a Mets fan, I would not be happy with this season, but I would feel so good that he's our owner. It's not just spending the money, it's the willingness to just tear it down the second he knows this isn't going down the path I want it to go down, which a lot of owners don't have the balls. They don't have the balls to do what he did. We're going to get to a lot of stuff that's happened. In my head, I got 30 trades. So there are like 30 trades in play here if we want to spend time talking about them. Off the top, it's you and me. Castellani is going to join us in about a half hour to get deeper into some of the specific trades. We'll see where Erod lands up. And then we're going to bring Hubs on for the final hour of the trade deadline to give it just a good old-fashioned live power ranking panel vibe that we do every Monday. So notwithstanding your own Mets failure, I am very excited to be here. And again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. This is our first live stream.
Yeah, this is what better day to do it. You want to let's talk? Can we talk Verlander up top? Like, let's go.
No Berrien leads. Verlander right now.
Yeah, let's go. So this is huge for both organizations. Obviously, the Mets. I'm looking at it from the Mets perspective. You know, we got the Astros' best prospect in Gilbert. We got their 4th best prospect as well. I am happy about this. Looks like Cohen is going to pay something like 58% of what's owed to Verlander, which is wild. And that includes the $35 million option that's likely to exercise in 2025. I'm happy we got rid of these older guys. And obviously, Cohen's paying a lot of it down, but it clears a lot of space, both in roster space and in payroll space between the Scherzer deal, even smaller deals like the Canna deal. Like, let's say with the Canna trade yesterday, if we had kept him, we would have had to pay a $2.5 million buyout at the end of the year. We don't have to pay that now. Now, yeah, we are paying most of his salary this year. But when David Stearns takes over, in case people don't know, David Stearns was the Brewers GM. Now he's kind of in limbo, but still under contract with them. He's going to be the GM November 1st. That's an open secret. It's going to happen. When I say GM, I mean like director of baseball ops. He's going to be running this show. And this makes it so he can carve his own path. He's going to have a bunch of prospects to work with, whether to trade them or just have them mature in the system. And now he's cleared up some roster space and some payroll space to be able to maybe go out and get some new guys. We're going to have to completely rebuild the starting rotation. I put a quick list out of who the current rotation is for the Mets for the rest of the year. And boy, is it ugly.
Okay, so maybe we're getting a good draft pick next year. Now you get into the spot where it's like, hey, we could be losing 65% of the games we play the rest of the season, and now the Mets are picking 8th or 9th next year would be some crazy shit. Now, let me ask you this is a twofold question. If you don't know the answer to one, let's just worry about question number 2. The first one is, what do the payroll, what are the luxury tax implications if the Mets agree to pay up to 60% of the Verlander deal on an option next year? The second part is does Steve Cohen care at all about luxury tax considerations in the least bit enough for me to ask the first part of that question?
Yeah, it's my understanding they're still on the hook for the luxury tax element of it. So at 58 million is still counted toward a tax. That's my understanding. Whether it is or isn't, Cohen doesn't give a fuck. Like, this is a guy that just it is unlimited money. Like, and I say that just because the baseball, there's only so much you can probably spend. And we saw what happened when you spend a lot. It doesn't necessarily automatically equate to wins and losses. But Cohen has said since he took over, he wants to build a model like the Dodgers, where when a guy gets hurt, you have the farm system able to replace it. And yes, you do use free agency, but you're not doing it to build an entire rotation or entire lineup like he has been doing. You're using that farm system as the number one option. The free agent option is just almost like a break glass in case of emergency. And that's really what it should be done. The Dodgers obviously do it better than everybody. I do want to mention, too, how this affects the Astros. Because, yes, my Mets are affected, and that's exciting for today. But for the next 2 months, my Mets are pretty irrelevant. This puts the Astros in a real driver's seat and is a huge answer to the Rangers getting Scherzer. So now you have both of these guys going to the same division, the same fucking state. And, like, now it's a battle. And how cool is that? You got the Texas Rangers, outside of Dallas. You got Houston Astros, and they are fighting for that West. And they are pulling out all the stops. And even right now with Jonah Heim being hurt for the Rangers, it looks like he might even miss the rest of the year. If that happens, you can see the Rangers are until 6 o'clock, until we're done today, Carl. They're trying to get a catcher. They're furiously looking right now.
They need, I know Jonah Heim, to Baseball Insiders, a lot of people inside, we hear that name, we're like, oh, fuck, that guy's really good. For casual sports fans, it might just be tuning in towards the season winds down. It's hard to explain just how integral it is, how he is to the Rangers lineup and creates such unique value. I'm a huge proponent of when you get like an absurd difference between what the market average is. So in Heim's case, he's an extremely dominant offensive catcher, but a lot of starting pitchers have taken steps forward with him behind the plate this year. It's may not be the star power on paper, but that's a huge gaping hole for the Rangers in the AL West race. Is actually, just quick pat on my back, there's a handful of people that are listening to the show that know for the last year, since whenever Starting Nine started with Jake and I was talking national baseball here, I've been talking about an arms race in the AL West going back to when they built that stadium, they got the COVID site, they got the All-Star game. They're in front of, like, the Rangers have been in front of so much. Then to go out and spend all the money in free agency to be active again this year, go after Scherzer. It's a great sign to see, because I think it's a good model with the ALS. What the AL West is what I want from other divisions. They're super active in this trade deadline. All the teams are, except for the Athletics. I mean, obviously throw them up, but it's just good competitive baseball.
Absolutely. I saw there was a comment, I think, from Andrew saying, like, hey, is this money going to be unlimited? I don't know if that is the case, Andrew. I think it is kind of unlimited. Yeah, you don't get super rich wasting money, but remember, this is not his number one job. He's very successful when it comes to the finance industry. So this is almost like just an expensive hobby. He also has a very expensive hobby, his art collection. He spent, millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on that pretty easily. And every year Cohen makes more and more money. Now, yes, if there's a year that comes where Cohen isn't making insane amount of money every year, then you're right. That water faucet does shut off. But I think right now it doesn't. And to the other point, Carl, to your AL West, how dumb do the Angels look right now? I mean, they went out and they traded away what's left of their decrepit, pathetic farm system. Any sort of element they had is now gone. And now, Lucas Giolito, nice. The Rangers get Scherzer. The Astros fucking get Verlander. And now the division's gone. You're just hoping for a wild card spot, and I don't even like their chances there.
Yeah. Andrew, thanks for the comment. If you guys have comments in the chat, we'll pin them. It's probably easier to go through and keep that filtered. I don't have I know I have the chat in front of me, but not enough to type back and interact. So good questions we will be talking about here. The great thing about Steve Cohen, he basically is paying for prospects at this point. Drew Gilbert, Ryan Clifford. So
even the Eduardo Escobar deal, Carl, last month, he paid all of Escobar's salary, which is $10 million or whatever. Say $8 million they owed him. And they got back 2 decent prospects from the Angels. Now, for a fact, if Cohen didn't pay for that salary, they wouldn't have gotten a bag of balls back. But you're absolutely right. Cohen is paying for prospects, and I think it's a good strategy.
it's a good strategy to get those prospects because otherwise the Astros aren't going to part. They want the talent, but you take on $58 million. So that's a great comment there. Someone just said it's like the Astros just refinanced. They refinanced Verlander's contract through the Mets, and all it cost them was their number 1 and their number 3 or 4 prospects. So it's a kind of a bold, bad way to look at it. Like, would you have paid that much? Yeah, that's a lot of money for those 2 prospects.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Yeah, so I guess they're right. They saved $58 million, but the Astros, at least, and they had to part with their best prospect in their system, in a system that isn't that great. The Astros, when I heard Verlander was going somewhere, I was kind of hoping it would be either the Orioles, who have an amazing system, or maybe who else am I thinking of that has a strong system that might need him? I'm sorry. But the Orioles were like 3rd on my list there. I was like, I don't know. But I didn't know we were going to get their top prospect though. That's huge.
Something real quick. Hopefully Orioles get some starting pitching. Kyle Bradish, I believe, is 15 innings away from his career limit. I think Tyler Wells is another 20 innings away from where he's at in his career. Okay. And then Grayson Rodriguez has already maxed out his career long in innings. It's August 1st, guys. Orioles are in first place in the AL East. If this front office doesn't do anything to help them out, while conversely, I want to go back while it's just you and me right now. The fact that Steve Cohen's willing to rip it down and the Orioles haven't made a move yet, or they're not in on this stuff, kind of makes me upset. The fact that the Angels got Giolito, that I didn't hear the Orioles name buzzing around that.
It's insane. Now, I have heard some murmurs today that Dylan Cease to the Orioles. You keep hearing that, and which might make more sense to the Orioles. Cease is under control until I think the end of 2025. So you do get 2 years plus this one with them. I know they're kind of looking at a long-term avenue, but you wonder how cheap are the fucking Angelos? Like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, you got it. I mean, this Orioles team is good. They're way ahead of schedule. You have a team that really has one hole. They have a great back-end bullpen. Great, maybe best in baseball. Their lineup is getting it done and getting better every day with Gunnar Henderson maturing in front of our eyes. They have starting pitching, a giant gaping hole, starting pitching, and they are doing nothing to fill it up. In fact, they're just making it bigger. They got out the shovels because they sent Tyler Wells down. So now they just keep shoveling away, making this problem even greater. It is insane. It is awful. I said it on Pick Central. It is malpractice. People should be furious. If you're an Orioles fan right now, you should be punching a wall in your house. You should be so angry. I really hope it's 4:13. You got an hour and 40. You got 107 minutes to get something done, guys. Because if you don't, I don't know. That is a damn shame. Because, Carl, you can look at these young teams and be like, all right, the Orioles are building up for the future. They're going to be good for a while. That's not guaranteed. You don't always have a year where you have a 600 winning percentage on August 1st. We both know that, the teams we root for. And Orioles haven't been to a World Series since 1983. I wasn't even 4 years old. I'm old as dirt. Like, that's crazy. You have to take advantage of these chances. They don't come every day. And, the idea that is punting this season, more or less, it's infuriating to me as a baseball fan. I want to see the Orioles do well. I have a great ballpark, awesome fans. What are we doing?
Angelos are rumored to be constantly selling. They're always selling. They're waiting for this Nationals thing to sell. Anytime I see them not commit money or not make some move that can impact them in the long term, I always just go back to these people at that transaction going, well, that's cash out of their pocket. Every dollar they spend is an extra $3 they're going to lose in the future. That's what I think the Angelos are doing. Now, I fucking agree with you. That's bullshit because I have this blog about the Padres to go up, or maybe it went up already, about how futile they are in 2023 in clutch situations. They're 0-10 in one-run games, or they're 0-10 in extra innings. They're 6-18 in one-run games.
That's unbelievable.
They're dead last in like clutch factor, whatever the fuck that is. They're dead last in runners in scoring position, batting average with runners in scoring position, and they're dead last in like weighted runs created plus in innings 7 to 9. They're the worst team in baseball after 6 innings.
I got a train just went through. That's the train noise. This is wild, Carl. I want to get your take on this. The Brewers just acquired Andrew Chafin from the Diamondbacks. Now, Diamondbacks just made a trade yesterday for a reliever. Am I right? And now they dealt Chafin. So what are the Diamondbacks like going reversed and drop? Like, what are they doing?
Chafin, they were using as a closer at the start of the season and kind of earlier in the year. And then he had mixed as a reliever. You like Chafin because he's a veteran presence, lefty who can get out righties, which is not that's fucking important if we're going to have a 3-batter rule. The problem is Chafin's been a little sloppy. And I think when you get to that point in your career, like he's got the stuff, he knows what he's doing, just a quick change of scenery. So I think you can market and sell Chafin as like, you can get the best version of him. We're not getting him right now. That's just, he's a little funky right here. And I think maybe Seawald opens up the doors because if he closes, then you can bump other guys down. And so I don't know what the return is for Chafin, but I'm also interested that they made a real small move. I love Jace Peterson. Jace Peterson's a perfect addition to that infield because he doesn't need to play every day and can still give you 4 to 5 quality plate appearances off the fucking bench, just like Nicky Lopez with the Braves. So we got a lot. I mean, just so much stuff going on here. What's your quick reaction to Chafin to the Diamondbacks? Do you think the Diamondbacks are doing a soft buy, or is this like a strategic buy? What is this?
It's confusion. I'm with Stackhouse. Diamondbacks just, that was my thing. Like, what are they doing? Honestly, they traded way too much to get Seawald, in my opinion. I know they haven't, he's signed through next year. That was a huge amount they gave up. It seemed kind of stupid. And then now they're moving guys. What are you doing here? I almost kind of feel like it's the Brewers from last year. Like, I don't know what direction you're doing. And I think when you do that, you end up finishing 84 and 78, 3 games out of the playoffs, and you go home early. I don't think that's a good strategy. I think I love the show Breaking Bad. And the character Mike says no half measures. Half measures, are bad. And I completely agree. You either all in or you're all out. And that's a good tip for life. Either you're all in or you're not in at all. You got to go in. And I don't think going halfway. And I think this is where the Yankees too, kind of talk about them for a second real quick. Them kind of holding pat here and not doing anything is the worst strategy. Have some fucking balls. Either, make a move, be a seller, which I know that fan base isn't going to want to hear, but you could. There's some like Clay Holmes, there's some guys there you could deal and get some return back or buy. But this idea of just standing pat and kind of staying I don't know if that's a great one either.
I think what the Yankees can say is they know when Aaron Judge is healthy and in that lineup, they look at themselves as one of the best teams in the American League, and that they're reflecting back over whatever stretch gets them to be in last place, even though they would be in. They're competitive. They're more competitive than me saying they're last place in the division. Right. But maybe the front office is, and maybe the Yankees front office just sees themselves now that Judge is back is as a team that selling doesn't impact them any more than it's a shitty situation to be. I should qualify this with the Yankees because they have the biggest spotlight. They're under the biggest microscope. And they are in the worst spot to be at the trade down, as we said in the green room, 55 and 51 or 50, whatever. It's like 3 or 4 games over. You're hovering around 500. You spend a lot of money. Fans have high expectations. And then you as a front office have to go out and execute these decisions. I would not feel good if I was in the Yankees front office. What moves can you make to actually sincerely set yourself up for the future? Yankees don't even like prospects, to be honest, unless you're an Anthony Volpe who can come in, play right away.
Yeah, I agree. I think they are kind of in the middle here, and I think they should probably sell. That team is not constructed to win a World Series. There's too many holes.
But they don't rebuild. They won't. It's not like they're going to get a couple guys in high A and double A and then let them develop, and then one day they'll turn into Yankees. Like if you're in the Yankees farm, because if you're in the Yankees farm system, the only way you break into the big leagues is like you can be a reliever, you can be Nestor Cortez's crazy fucking story, or you can be like a Brett Gardner. You can be like an organizational player. It's very hard to me for them to bring guys up, send them down, develop players. The Yankees just don't develop players at the big league level. They don't.
I mean, they used to, if
they did
way back. They haven't really been able to, I think, because they haven't been constructed that way. They haven't had a losing season since 1992. Meach had a good comment I saw earlier saying that Bader, could he get moved? And I think he's going to get moved. Yeah, thank you. He's not in the lineup today. But like trading Bader doesn't do anything to me. It's not going to, what are you going to get back? Not much. I mean, I think you need to either go, like I said, trading Bader, but then keeping Holmes is mixed signals. What can they sell to kind of locked in what they have? You're right, Meach. They are, but they still some guys. You could trade Peralta. You could trade Holmes. You could obviously trade Bader. There's some other moves you could make, but you're right. I mean, most of that lineup is on the downside. LeMahieu, Stanton. I mean, Donaldson. I know he's hurt, but like that team is very poorly constructed, and the Yankees really need. I doubt they will because he's been there forever, but they need to look at Cashman.
They're not.
I know.
They're not. I mean, it's just this is.
You could trade Gleyber, like Andrew B's like trade Gleyber. You could. He's got another year of control, I believe, after this one. And you tell me a team wouldn't want him, especially with there's so few bats in this market right now. You could probably get a pretty good return from him. And I think he's a very nice player. I like him a lot.
Do you really?
Yeah, Gleyber. Yeah, I think he's good.
I think he's good. Would you put him in is he a top 10 second baseman?
I don't know. Probably right in the fringe, right? Probably
Yeah.
between 8 and 12, somewhere in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
AL East, okay. Otherwise, the Blue Jays did two moves that I absolutely love. Paul DeJong right now, because we're not really sure what's going on with Bo Bichette's knee. And I made a Bo Bichette knee joke a couple weeks ago. So Blue Jays fans, I'm here if you guys got a fucking problem with it.
Yeah, I like the deal getting DeJong, but it's a bad omen. If you're a Blue Jays fan, if I saw that trade, my heart would sink because that tells me that Bichette's really hurt. Now we know for a fact, right? We're pretty savvy. We know we're not going to hear any news about Bichette until 6:01 because they obviously for leverage reasons. But if you're running out that quick, I mean that guy wasn't even in, even seeing a doctor yet. They made the move for DeJong. That says Bichette might be hurt for a long time, which would, I don't know, kill their chances. But that makes the Blue Jays I made fun of the Angels. That's something that kind of helps the Angels. Like, all right, the Blue Jays are worse now. Maybe we can compete with them for that last wild card spot.
Do they trade for Paul DeJong if they don't make the Jordan Hicks trade? They acquired Jordan Hicks to go to the back on the bullpen. I think an arm when it's on and electric is tough as anybody to hit in baseball, but it seems like they make a small buy there, and then Bichette's knee goes down. They make another deal with the Cardinals. Maybe the two are packaged up, but it's more activity than we've seen from the Orioles, right? Like the Blue Jays have done more. The Rays have done more.
That proves my point too, Carl, that this was all because Bichette's injury is bad. Because we know if it wasn't due to Bichette, then they would have just packaged those guys together on Sunday and they would have traded them together. Why call the Cardinals back up again unless Bichette is really in a tough spot? I hope he's not. I love the player. Unbelievable. He's led the league. And right now he's leading the league in hits and batting average. He's led the league in hits the last 3 years, counting this one. It sucks if he goes down. That would really, really, really bum me out as a baseball fan.
How many Paul DeJongs are in the Cardinals organization, though? It just seems like they're just a homegrown guy who can go up and, give you a big league 162 game season. He was bad a year or two ago, but he's a quality player. Illinois State guy, too.
These guys who the Cardinals have are weird. I feel like they're good for like 3 years and they stink. It's like, and it's even true with some of the pitchers they have. It's weird how they have these weird peaks. I don't know. Cardinals are weird to me. They have these, like I said, they have these guys, they get called up. They're pretty helpful players for 2, 3, 4 years, and they immediately go into the shitter.
Two things I want to thoughts on the Cardinals deadline. That's a great question. Obviously super disappointing. The fact that they say Arenado isn't for sale means they don't think they're very close from turning this thing back around next year. Could be a couple levers. Now they went out of their way to hire Ollie Marmol to run the clubhouse. And the second Yadier Molina leaves the clubhouse, it's up for fucking grabs. It was up for fucking grabs when Wilson Contreras was, getting moved in and out of the lineup in May after they gave him $87.5 million. The trade deadline now for the Cardinals is just a reflection of how poor that they have managed leadership out of that. Like they just didn't do it well. Like bringing in Marmol when Yadi was leaving, bringing back Pujols for the victory tour, and now all that stuff just gets like sucked out. The fact they're this bad, it's just a reflection of more and more stuff that's been going on. But again, if they don't move Arenado, who would get the most you could possibly imagine from a position player, that's a testament that they think they can come right back next year and win 90 games and compete for the division. So they're not rebuilding as much as they just fucking stink this year.
Yeah, I think there's interesting what wasn't said by the GM. He said that they are not trading Arenado, but he didn't say anything about Goldschmidt. And that's kind of my dark horse for that's the big name that you might potentially see get moved today. Because when you look at some of the hitters that are on the market right now, the best hitter you could argue is Teoscar Hernandez, who is fine-ish. When you have Paul Goldschmidt, if you can go in there and have him up for grabs, it's like, holy shit. Like that's you would get such a return for him because he signed for next year as well. I think it would just be insane. I don't know why the Cardinals aren't. Maybe they are. And I said he didn't mention his name. But if they could move Goldschmidt, you can get, because every single team, I feel like all these good teams need hitters. And man, oh man, you're not going to do much better than Goldschmidt. Now that the NL has the DH, he can fit everywhere.
Report today just got popped up. No significant damage to Bo Bichette's knee. We're going to monitor it. We'll see if it
I hope that's right, Zach. Yeah. I hope that's absolutely right. And if that's the case, if they're just having DeJong as like insurance, kind of being that bench guy, then great. Then if that's the case, that Bichette's injury is like a day-to-day thing, and they just got him just in case it triggers up again, then that's really smart by the Blue Jays to go and make that move. So I hope that's the case, because Bichette's one of my favorite players in that division.
Cease on the move is a good question. Talk about Chicago trades real quick. You bring up Goldschmidt. I mean, my eyes and ears all perk up. Like, what would I do for Paul Goldschmidt to be playing first base for the Chicago Cubs? A lot of bad things. It's not going to happen. They won't trade him in the division. Let's stay in Chicago. They'll go back to the Cease package. Probably not on the move, but the rumor is it would take an unbelievable amount of prospects for the White Sox to part ways with Dylan Cease, mostly because he's a frontline starting pitcher under arbitration. So
I like the pitcher a lot. I'm very disappointed with the season he's had this year. I'm sure all the White Sox fans are in agreement there. He's really the perfect fit for the Orioles, I think. He's 27. He signed for a couple more years. I think that is the ultimate fit. But if they're just simply waiting around for that deal to happen, and then they end up just kind of like with their dicks in their hand and 601, that's not enough. And the Orioles should be looking at multiple pitchers. I want them to go and get Jack Flaherty. I want them to go get Jordan Montgomery. That ship has sailed. I want them to go and get more than one starter. You mentioned all those guys that have pitch inning limits. They need to do more. And I mean, the fact they haven't done anything right now is infuriating.
Not even a David Robertson.
No. And to their credit, their bullpen is very strong. But there are starting pitchers out there. Less than there were a week ago, but they're still there. What's going on, guys? What's happening? And I don't know. That is shocking. Now the Reds, you want to take them? They're in a little bit different situation in my eyes. Like where theirs is the first. They're like the Orioles last year, where they're having this like surprisingly good year. I will say they're a better playoff spot than the Orioles were last year. I can understand that they don't make a move this year necessarily, if I can talk necessarily. But you could argue that they should be making some moves too, potentially. They have a great farm system. They have a bunch of guys down there they can move. But I can understand why they might be. And I know they're looking at maybe moving Jonathan India, but he's hurt. So that probably isn't going to happen. So I don't know. I feel like there's more pressure in my mind on the Orioles than the Reds for today.
You can move India way more in the offseason when he's significantly more valuable, because if a team does need a second baseman and they flag second base as a position that's going to put him over the top, then you'd be willing to spend more on Gleyber Torres. Now, unless he's just simply isn't available, then maybe you go to the Reds.
Brown Bass says the Reds need him just about as the O's. Clemmer's a Reds hater. I don't think I'm a Reds hater. I don't necessarily exactly buy what they're doing this year. I'm a little I will say every single passing week, the pitching staff's gotten better. Graham Ashcraft, who I was very down on a month and a half ago, he's been awesome the last 6 weeks. Now, we did see Andrew Abbott get knocked around a little bit yesterday. Look, if the Reds can come out of this week, especially with this 4-game series in the Cubs, and they're looking strong, then the Reds may very well be for real. And if they are for real, I will say I was wrong. But Elly De La Cruz is batting 118 since the All-Star break, something like that. Like, there's some major holes, there's some major problems. And I think, I'm not saying the Reds shouldn't make moves because I hate them. I'm saying the Reds shouldn't make moves because I think they're still kind of that year away potentially. But if you're a fan of the Reds and you think that this is their year and they absolutely should be making some moves. And don't get mad at me. You should be mad at your GM, especially your ownership for being so cheap.
All they've done is add Sam Moll, the left-handed pitcher from Oakland. Unfucking believable that's the only move that they've made.
What do you think they were going to do? That owner sucks.
I mean, it's not the fact. Why do you go back to the owner if they don't make a trade?
Because he's not giving them any resources. I know for a fact Elias is a good GM in Baltimore. He has built that team up. He is awesome. You're telling me that if he had the resources, he's just like, yeah, you know what, Angelos, you keep your money. No way. But isn't there the sense of like ownership separation where the ownership isn't like completely interacting with the GM on a day-to-day basis, where it's like, we check in at the end of the year. Do you really think the owner's like walking into the GM's office, knock, knock, knock? Do you guys make did you make the trade yet? I don't know. I don't know if the owner is saying you have like X amount of dollars you can spend. And if you don't spend that money, then that's what you have. And I'm sure he's fighting for every dollar he can. And at the end of the day, they're like, nope, sorry, not in the budget this year.
Yeah. This is the Barstool Baseball trade deadline show, obviously here with Clemmer. We're going to get Castellani in here in a second. I do want to ask you just last thing, Clemmer, is there one thing you absolutely want to see in the next hour and a half? If there's one thing you want to see in the next hour and a half, what is it?
The Orioles to make a move. I want to see the Orioles go and get like legit starting pitchers.
Pitchers.
At least one. They need two.
And Creamer, Dino, that's a guy I said he's over his inning limit too. So you got 4 dudes that have carried you to August 1st. They're all over inning limits. They're all bumping up against inning limits. It's crazy. It's absolutely fucking crazy. Let's get Castellani in here. Let's get Lights Camera Castellani in the mix.
What's up, guys? How we doing, man?
What's up, Chris?
What did you disagree with most from the first half hour of this, or what do you want to dig into?
Well, I mean, I don't. I was just chuckling at the Reds talk because I feel like for whatever reason the Cincinnati Reds have been like the most talked about team on this network for the last like month or so. But no, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with anything. I want to go back to the Verlander deal and the subsequent deals that the Mets have made and just say that as disappointing as this season has been for the Mets, I'm in agreement with Clemmer that these moves had to happen. And honestly, getting Drew Gilbert back, I know you had to eat a substantial amount of money. I understand it. I don't believe this is the case, but Mets fans should not look at what just happened as the beginning of some short-term rebuild. I really do think that the intention will be go into next offseason, add in free agency, and continue to build around your core. You got younger with the prospects you got. Yeah, the Robertson deal seems like it might end up being kind of a dud, but I really think the Verlander trade will end up working well for both sides. And the Verlander going back to Houston is just about like one of the juiciest things that could have came out of this deadline for me. I love it. I think it's fucking great. I don't really recall an instance in which this has happened in baseball history, in which a player leaves a team in free agency and then in turn gets traded back to that team after half a season. Is there any instance in which you can think of that happening? There's been guys who've returned back to their old teams, but not immediately after. I mean, it barely feels like he was ever even a Met. Now he's back in Houston.
Yeah, I have to think about that. That's a good question. Yeah, who did a kind of a U-turn like that? Yeah, it's very rare. I wrote a blog today about it, how it's just, I mean, it's going to be this weird footnote in his career. It's funny. I just saw his 250th win on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he went 6-5 for the Mets. He had 16 starts, and it's going to be this weird when he gets his Hall of Fame plaque. It's like, oh yeah, he was on New York NL. Oh, that's right. He was on that big failed experiment with Verlander. Haha.
So now that he's back, So now that he's back with the Astros, and so they're gearing up, they got to take on the Rangers. Does this move it over? Who's your favorite now?
For me, Houston. I would say Houston even before the Verlander trade. I was leaning towards, and we've talked
about. Come on, that's fucking crazy. Clemmer, who do you have?
There's favorites to win the World Series?
No, between the AL West, between the Rangers and the Astros, before or now after the Verlander deal. Castellani saying before the Verlander deal, he had the Astros above the Rangers. Fucking Rangers, I get Jordan Montgomery and Max Scherzer, and you have the Astros above that squad.
The Evaldi and Heim injuries scare the hell out of me. That's a big thing. Yeah, I love what they added, but I'm kind of worried.
Yeah, the Heim thing, I'm more and more concerned. The reports the last couple of days, I keep hearing out for the year, and if that's the case, that's a big deal. And the fact that they're looking for catchers, I'm very unnerved by that. Before it, I guess I had Rangers by a hair, but now I have the Astros ahead of them. This is a big deal. And honestly, Verlander's been awesome the last 6 weeks.
Yeah,
he's been very efficient. He's been good. I don't know. I like the Astros. This is huge for them. This is going to be quite a playoff series for them. Imagine if Abreu ever hits again.
Ever?
Right.
Can I call a shot here? I think Sale Perez can get traded and play there for 2 months and then get traded again in the offseason, maybe back to Kansas City. Because the Royals are listening to offers on Sale Perez.
It sounds like he doesn't want to get traded based on what I'm hearing, but that also just could be leverage from a 10-5 guy who wants some options picked up, whatever. So
I don't think he wants to get traded either. I think he's very comfortable with just showing up and being the Royal starting catcher. He's won his World Series. He's had all his success, but that was a name that came today. I didn't think at all that was a name that would pop up because he's signed through 24, 25, and 26, I believe. So, but going back to the AL West now, Castellani, big talking point, the Rangers keeping Ohtani, acquiring CJ Cron, Randall Grichuk, Ronaldo Lopez, Lucas Giolito, kind of looks a little bit wasted now. It does like very wasted.
That's a great point that Clemmer brought up, which is I think the Angels might have assumed that other teams weren't going to add. Like on paper, legitimate, and we can shit talk the Angels all we want, but legitimately, if they're going to go for it, I like the pieces they've added. Maybe don't love them. Don't feel like there's a kill shot, knockout punch in there, but Giolito's solid. I like Crone. Ronaldo Lopez was actually phenomenal for them last night out of the pen, 2 scoreless against the best offense in baseball. The problem is they got better while the 2 teams above them also got substantially better. So in a weird way, I feel like them adding is almost like a lateral move for them. I mean, they might end up, they're kind of going around the block just to get next door here. And I think ultimately that will not pay off for them at this point, though they did win last night against Atlanta. I'm not going to totally count them out of the wild card race, but as far as the AL West goes, they're going to get stomped by those 2 teams when they play.
Someone wants me to look up Jose Abreu's splits the last month. So I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'm a chat first guy.
He's been better.
So Ohtani, keeping Ohtani means like now their best course of action is like for 5th place. Realistically, in the American League.
The American League. Okay.
Can do is keep the 5 spot, because if they don't win the division, what are the chances that they finish above the Astros or the Rangers is very low at this point. So then they would be 5 or 6. So now you're on the road in a wild card. You kept Ohtani to go on the road in a wild card series. It's crazy.
Abreu, by the way, 333 on base, 421 slug. That's not really that impressive. I will say he had a 311 on base, 510 slug in June. So he's been better the last 2 months, but that's neither one of those really moved the needle for me too much.
Yeah, well, in the second half, he's got an OPS of 805. He's never going to find the power stroke that he had when he was in Chicago, but batting 6th in that lineup, just being a contact guy who's going to move the line, I think he can still be a solid piece for them. I don't think he's the player he was the first few months of the season.
They signed him to hit 3. They hit him 3 for the first 60 days of the season. They wanted him to be in the middle of that lineup because then it can space out Alvarez and Tucker and create more threatening 3-man runs. But
I want to talk about the Lorenzen deal while we have Castellani here.
Sure.
What's your take on this trade, Chris?
I'm totally fine with it. I think you got back a solid middle infield prospect, high walk rate, not a whole lot of strikeouts, can hit for power. Look, the one thing I'm looking for and hoping for out of this new regime is I want to see a plan and I want to see consistency. The number one thing Scott Harris said when he was introduced in Detroit is our goal is to acquire and retain good young players, and we want players on both sides that dominate the strike zone. So far, when you look at every player that they've acquired, mixed results, right? But for the most part, they all are kind of cut from the same cloth. They walk a fair amount. They get on base. This guy's 20 years old. He was dominant in rookie ball his first 2 years. The 5th ranked prospect in the Philly system, and I like Lorenzen quite a bit. I think he'll be a solid strike thrower, durable pitcher for the Phillies. But you're getting Lorenzen for 2 months, and you take a flyer out on a guy who's 5th in that system, who kind of fits the mold of the caliber of player Scott Harris is looking for. I'm fine with it. Now, the Erod deal, if and when that happens, will be kind of the determining factor for me regarding how I feel, not just about this deadline, but about kind of the trajectory the organization is going. And we always knew Lorenzen was going to be a rental. I think they got the best possible piece they could for a rental. Now it's going to be more telling with what happens with Erod.
Let me push back on
the Phillies. Do you like it, Clemmer? Do you like what the Phillies got?
I like the Phillies got. I do. I want to push back on Chris about the Tigers for 1 second, though. So the Tigers are 6.5 out of the playoffs. And the Guardians just traded, Savali yesterday. So in theory, they're worse. As a Tigers fan, was there any sort of hope, like maybe if we keep Lorenzen, we keep Erod, we can somehow win the Central? No, okay.
Absolutely not. No, and I am very grateful that Scott Harris didn't buy into the delusion that some fans were preaching, because I still get tweets being like, "Hey man, we're only 6.5 back." Yeah, we also got shut out by the Oakland A's a few weeks back and lost 2 out of 3 at home. Like every time I think, okay, maybe there's something here, they'll drop a game to the Royals or they'll drop a game to the Rockies. This offense is legitimately awful. And I understand the appeal of looking at the standings. I get it. We're talking about a team that's 11, 12 games under 500. I can't think of any team in the history of baseball that was 12 games under 500 this late into the season that ended up sneaking into the postseason. I get it. The division is what it is. It's awful. And because of that, there was a certain appeal for a minute, but they are doing what is best for the organization right now. And if I was not you got to sell guy from day one, if I felt like this team was in position to potentially win the division, I'd say it. There's too many holes on the roster right now that can't be filled, even if you added at the deadline. So no, I think that I am 100% behind the decision to sell at this point.
Yeah.
By the way, we got some clarification on the Diamondbacks trade for the Chafin deal. They are getting a major leaguer back. I'm not going to pronounce his name right. It's Peter Strzelecki. He is a reliever, second year at the Brewers. So they did get a major leaguer back. So that makes me feel a little better about the trade in that, all right, the D-backs are still acquiring major league talent. I would still put them in the buyer camp, not in this weird, purgatory.
We're so quick to just say like buy or seller. Like you can just strategically get better without mortgaging your future. Like you can't just completely mortgage, the fucking. It's not like the Diamondbacks are going to go out and like trade away prospect Jordan Lawler so that they can go get, or not Jordan Lawler. Jordan, is it Lawler? Walker's Cardinals, Lawler's.
Yeah.
We got some good Jordans in baseball here, guys. Some very good Jordans, but they're not doing one of those to get better to chase a wild card spot, which I respect. They're improving strategically with the bullpen. They get a utility infielder with Jace Peterson who can play third base, give you a couple innings at second base in a pinch. I like what they're doing, and I think more front offices should be in that mode at all times of constantly trying to improve. Like Andrew Chafin throughout this season was pitching meaningful innings for the Diamondbacks. They're like, wait a second, we're just gonna make a small tweak here. Let's get Sewald instead of Chafin. Like, I don't know how many front offices are willing to make such lateral moves.
It's a bit bizarre. And I know Chafin pitched a year in Detroit. He's also like one of the most well-liked like clubhouse guys. He kind of fits the mold of what a wild reliever should be. And I've always liked Chafin. I like the Sewald pickup, but even so, I'm kind of with Clemmer here about it's not like I look at the Diamondbacks and say, oh, they've gotten worse. But when they added Sewald, it gave off the impression that they're completely all in here. And now there's something of a purgatory going on. It seems like I think they're a bit afraid that the regression is very real with them, and they don't want to sell the future for the sake of the present. So it's a bit surprising though to see them go about things the way they did.
They're like the Angels to me. They're in the same spot in their division. What are they in third place? You're looking up at the Dodgers.
The Angel? What's it? I'm sorry.
The Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks.
Right.
Where man, you have some pretty big. You got some really big mountains to climb in order to be competitive. Now,
they're only 3.5 back, but I agree, Carl. It's a big 3.5, especially when you look at the trend the Diamondbacks are going on. I will say, a lot of people ask about Frank. Frank is on the road right now. I can tell you he's texted me a number of times about these deals. He is not happy. I asked him what would you want the Mets to do? I don't know if he replied to that text, but he was very unhappy right now. He wanted to retool for 2024. I think the Mets will still do that. But
You still can.
Yeah.
That's the thing that people don't get about deadlines sometimes, man, is you're not with rare exceptions. You're not going to get a major league player back for a major league player. That's not how deadlines work. That's why teams sell. And that's the thing is like, I know there's a lot of Tigers fans excited about today, and I get it. I hate selling. It sucks. It is your team admitting, hey, this season's a dud. We're punting the rest of the season to get better in the future. Every few years to do that, I get it. But this is the 8th consecutive year, and I think the 9th year out of 10 that the Tigers have been sellers at the deadline, and you're left with that kind of uncertainty. But yeah, I'm not as.
What do we got?
Trade. The Marlins are acquiring Jake Berger from the White Sox.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yep,
no fucking way. No.
So reported by Craig Mish, who is
no.
Yes.
Jake Berger's the only good player on that team, not named Luis Robert.
Well, Dylan Cease is pretty good.
Yeah, he is. But Jake Berger's having a great season. He smashes. This is a tremendous, tremendous story. Baseball is a first-round draft pick, I believe, out of Southwest Missouri State or just Missouri State. Anyways, Lake of the fucking Ozarks kind of kid. He tore his Achilles before he had his first full season in the minors. Then while rehabbing the torn Achilles during COVID, tore the Achilles again. Ugh. Bad stuff. He's come back and he was an afterthought with the White Sox. He slugged tremendously this year. I love the move for the Marlins because I had on my notes, David Robertson was the only move the Marlins made. For them to come in for Jake Berger, crazy. We got Nicky Smokes in the back here. Loves the fucking move for the Marlins. Personally, I think it's a fine move. I like Jake Berger a lot. I can't believe they got rid of him.
Having just watched the Marlins in a recent series against the Tigers, right? And I like this move a lot too, because I think they're way closer than sometimes we give them credit for, because I think their pitching is great. Like, I think Braxton Garrett is on the up and up. I think Alcantara is going to end up being fine. The big mystery box here, and Clemmer, I know you guys are talking about at Pick Central a little bit, is what's the deal with Yuri Perez? Is he going to be a guy that they're going to bring up down the stretch here? Because if you do that, you're talking about a 1, 2, 3, potentially even if you include Luzardo in that. That's a really good 4. And now you've added Pop in your lineup with Burger. You have Arise with the magic wand. You have Soler, who's had a wonderful year. All of a sudden, the Miami Marlins looking a lot more dangerous here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know Jake Burger came back from a lot, and that's exciting. You guys know me; I'm not very sentimental or sympathetic. This is a guy that has a 279 on base percentage this year. This is a guy that is fine. He's not, typical Marlins fashion, kind of they got a guy that's cheap, and they'll throw him in there and say, hey, we did something. Meanwhile, the guy's batting 214. I don't know. The good news is he's under control for a while for them, but I'm not going to lie. Like, this does not really move much the needle for me at all. Like, the Marlins are frustrating. Similar to the Orioles, I just find myself just annoyed.
That's fair. There is team control, though.
No. His isolated power is 313. All this dude does is hit for extra bases. So, like, the on base
all he does is not hit, Carl, because he's batting 214.
His on base will go up. The batting average will go up. It's very hard to fucking coach guys into slug. He gets in the box, he slugs. Is it slugging over 500? You said
527.
Yep, he is
527 with a 2 what average?
214 average, 279 on base. He's got.
Put him on a bus trip with Luis Ariz for what? Just say, go have a cup of coffee and ask, can he get the bat? Is he a great player? No.
I'm guessing he went on bus trips with Tim Anderson. He didn't learn much from him. So
stop throwing shots at friends of the program.
I'm just saying. That's not a shot. It's a compliment to Tim Anderson.
Hitting takes a lot mentally, and there's a lot going on in that clubhouse. Okay. I want to go back to Burger for a second, because you call out the 279 OBP. If you wanted to just use that, it's a horrible, horrible metric. A sub 300 OBP in today's baseball is purely unacceptable. It's not good enough to be playing. A 530 slug percentage is good enough to hit cleanup in any major league order. So you have spectrums here where this is an amazing everyday skill set, and this is you shouldn't be in AAA skill set. What the Marlins do with him, we'll see from here. I like the move, though, and I'm surprised the White Sox gave him up, because he has
a question for you, Carl. You see White Sox games way more than I do. What's his defense like?
Fine, lovable DH, third base.
Okay.
It's fine. He's more athletic than he looks. He's serviceable. He will lose you games at a quarter infield spot over 162 games. First base, he really would have to be a tremendous hitter. He would have to totally drive the on base through the roof to be able to say, fine, you can go run out and play first base. I feel like first base, luxury position. Not luxury position, like the floor for my first baseman is so much higher than any other position when it comes to offense.
Are you guys surprised by this move from a White Sox perspective?
Yes.
Yeah.
True fire sale.
Absolutely. And I think that I actually think in Rick Hahn's defense here, and we'll see how long he's still there. I like this move for them, because you are trading. We've talked before. Sometimes it's not about trading players as much as trading contracts. He's eligible for arbitration 2026, not a free agent until 2029. So this is a lot of years of team control and you have a White Sox team that, at least in the immediate future, doesn't appear to be going anywhere. Now, to me, given the fact that Graven's gone, Giolito's gone, Burger's gone, Clemmer alluded to it earlier. I think you got to complete your circle here and really see what you could get for Dylan Cease, because I don't. Maybe Cease in the off season is a better option to trade, but I think you got to explore all your options right now, because it's clear you are unloading as many assets as possible.
I would love to see Cease go to the Orioles as time expires on the trade deadline. I think that's really what we're starting to circle here. Who's another name? I saw Sonny Gray's name come up. Is there another pitcher that can even be considered as good as Dylan Cease? Sonny Gray's not as good as Dylan Cease.
Eduardo.
This year, probably Erod, yeah.
Is Erod good enough for the Orioles?
Yes, so he makes
And
them immediately.
sorry, Chris, I want to reframe this because we said that they're 4 top pitchers right now.
Right.
Like Wells is down, Grayson Rodriguez has thrown more innings than ever before. Kramer's thrown more innings than is about to hit his inning limit, and so is fucking Bradish. So all 4 of their ponies are down. So like Erod comes in. Is that a band-aid or is that like actually a bandage?
It's somewhere in between. He makes them better immediately, and he'll make them better for the remainder of the season. Does putting Eduardo Rodriguez on the Baltimore Orioles immediately make favorite to win the American League? In my mind, no. He's a solid, serviceable pitcher. I really think the worst thing that happened to the Baltimore Orioles this most recent weekend was that the Padres swept the Rangers, because I think that they should have made a serious push for Blake Snell. And with that, them sweeping the Rangers the way they did and kind of half-assing their way into the buyer's market. I mean, they got Rich Hill and G-Man Choi this afternoon. I think that would have been a match made in heaven, going out and trading for him, getting him from the National League, putting him on Baltimore. So Erod moves the needle. Does it move the needle enough for me to declare them as the team to beat in baseball? Sadly, no. But I think that at this point, with the farm system they have, they should still pull the trigger on it.
We have a return on the Jake Burger trade. It's a pitcher named Jake Eater. He's a lefty. He's coming off Tommy John surgery in 2021. He is in Double-A right now. He's been pretty decent since coming back. Like I said, he is a lefty. He's 24 though. So
it's old for Double-A.
The 4th best prospect in the Marlins system is heading to the White Sox.
That's all they got for that?
That's what it seems like.
It sounds like he's a lefty that'll start in the big leagues at least for a season.
Yeah, I guess with the amount of years of team control, I expected at least one more prospect there.
Oh,
they might like him a lot. There's nowhere to go for the Marlins if you're a starting pitcher.
I'm not going to blow the fart noise, but Jeff Passan is saying that Dodgers and Tigers had a trade in place for Eduardo Rodriguez, but Eduardo invoked his 10-team no-trade clause that includes the Dodgers, and the deal is now dead. So the Tigers now have 68 minutes to pivot if they want to move Eduardo. That must be a huge blow for the Tigers. If I'm Castellani, I am not too happy.
Where's Eduardo from?
Not fucking Detroit. So clearly, but I don't know. So clearly he's found a soft spot. It's so weird. This motherfucker abandoned the team for 3 months last year. Now he wants to stay here. Great. Thanks. Great.
I don't know if he wants to stay here. He might just not. He's from Venezuela. I don't know if he just doesn't want to go to LA. I mean, he's obviously had them on their 10-team no trade for a reason.
Because the Red Sox beat him in the World Series in 2018. That's why.
I'm searching for reasons. That's why I asked, where is he from? Is there some bad blood shit here where he's buddies with somebody, grew up in the same town, somebody who fucking hates the Dodgers?
Carl, this is interesting. He's the first person in humanity, to ever choose Detroit over LA. Interesting.
I wish I could make a joke about that, but it's like, you're completely right. Especially, I mean, I don't understand his personal situation. I don't get it. This is just, I mean, that is like a Mets thing, that a player would just totally piss on a potential trade return because he waives his no trade clause. The Erod contract, and Erod's a good pitcher. The Erod contract is set up for shit like this to happen, because I fucking hate opt-outs. Okay. That's a huge issue that you run into. You sign a guy for 5 years, he can leave after 2. And then you run into an even bigger problem here with the no trade clause involving 10 teams. Yeah. I mean, great.
Once again, not a fart noise, but more news. Baseball is just rocking right now. Brendan Donovan on the Cardinals is out for the year. He's getting season-ending surgery Wednesday. He's been very good for them this year. He was playing as recently as July 29th, and now he's going to miss the rest of the year. What a nice 362 on base, 11 home runs this year. Put him anywhere. So the Cardinals get even worse. If I'm them, I'm like, I got to move Goldschmidt. I know we're running out of time here, 66 minutes left, but I'm moving everybody. Where's Flaherty? How has Flaherty not been moved yet? That is a target for the Orioles as well. Someone that he's a rental. He wouldn't cost much down the road. So I don't know. Interesting.
Nolan Gorman, Lars Nootbaar, Paul DeYoung, Dylan Carlson, Brendan Donovan, Tyler O'Neill. I'm just naming faceless St. Louis Cardinals players that got drafted in like the 2nd or 3rd round. Even Harrison Bader was mixed in that group before. Sad news to lose Brendan Donovan, but as a guy who watches a ton of Cardinals games, there's 20 more of them coming over the next 5 years anyways.
their entire issue going forward is they need a complete revamp regarding their pitching philosophy. Like, I feel like they have tried to mold every pitcher that's come up through their system like Adam Wainwright, when in reality, and I love Waino, but like that mold of pitcher just isn't kind of dying out. The innings eater, cutters, sinkers, pitch for
Chris
contact.
Carpenter.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It started with Carpenter and then you go to Wainwright. And I feel like now they've tried to kind of keep that similar vibe going, when in reality, we live in the age of the strikeout. We live in the age of missed bats. I think Flaherty was the closest they had for that short period of time. But now he's probably on the chopping block here.
Interesting comment by my guy Meach here. We're going to have so many trades at the buzzer, and I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it's been, I would say, pretty slow since Carl and I jumped on this at 4, other than a couple small deals. No offense to Jake Berger. I think that we're going to see a big onslaught here in the next 65 minutes here.
Hey, maybe Eduardo Rodriguez just took out the West Coast time zones. Like I saw Lance Lynn did that in his no trade list. Okay. So that's why I said, like, where's he from? I don't know. A lot of these guys have weird reasons why they personally would or wouldn't want to play. Like Lance Lynn straight up wouldn't pitch for the Blue Jays, but that's because he doesn't want to move to Canada. But he did end up going to the Dodgers. He did waive it for the Dodgers, which I do like to see. Can we talk about the Dodgers just for a brief moment?
Yeah.
Brief moment here. Yeah. I like Ahmed Rosario for Noah Syndergaard. I think it would be hilarious to see Noah Syndergaard make a couple meaningful starts for the Guardians in August. I also like the fact that the Dodgers went out and acquired just a ton of veterans in the two former Dodgers. I feel like being a former Dodger, or when you have such a big organization like that, Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, it's good to bring back former guys for playoff runs. I think that gives you just like a little boost and stuff.
Yeah, you're talking about Kike Hernandez.
Yes, Kike Hernandez and Joe Kelly.
Rosario. It's funny. They had 2 days. They had two, shortstops basically. I think they had a combined WAR of minus 1.4 between the two of them. But I actually like Rosario, obviously former Met, and to get him for Noah Dumpster Syndergaard. I mean, this guy's 2 starts away from being DFA'd forever. Although he did, in fairness though,
he was good last night.
Yeah, he pitched well. So. It was bizarre trade, and maybe the Guardians knew they were going to trade Savali or something. It's very weird. I don't really understand what's happening in Cleveland right now. This has been a very bizarre trade deadline so far for them. I also don't know what they are. They're a game out of first place behind the Twins. I don't know if they're buyers, sellers, what they're doing exactly.
I think that I would consider them sellers, and yet they still might win the division. Like I don't view anything they've done. They have not added. Syndergaard is an ad by name, by word, like by definition only. I don't view it as, that's a real playoff push acquisition. They traded Savale, and their offense stinks, but they still might find a way to win this division.
This is the Barstool Baseball trade deadline show. Obviously, Carl K. Solani Clemmer here. We're going to add Hubs here in a minute, round out the full panel for the last hour of the trade deadline and really get some takes flying around here. Last thing before we get to Hubs, I'm curious, is there a sleeper team or a team who do you think has improved the most playoff chances, not World Series chances, playoff chances this trade deadline?
The Rangers.
I'm going to say the Brewers. I love what the Brewers have done. I love Chafin. I think Carlos Santana and Mark Canha are the perfect bats to go into that lineup. I think the Brewers made 3 very fine, average to like slightly above average moves.
I have a take on the Brewers trade.
Perfect. That's what they do.
It's lame. The Rangers went out and got Jordan Montgomery, Max Scherzer. Like, I mean, what are we doing here, Carl? Like,
why do you throw Jordan Montgomery's name up there like that?
Because he's good.
He's fine.
He's okay.
You just said Carlos Santana
is a good average trade piece. I didn't say I didn't throw a parade for Carlos Santana.
I would take Jordan. Everyone would take. Both are free agents end of the year. Who thinks going to make a lot more money?
Oh, Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, so sure. You say I keep throwing his name out there because he's fucking good.
Yeah, but I liked Santana signing a $6 million deal with the Pirates anyways this year because I thought the Pirates would trade him at the trade deadline.
Oh, I don't mind that.
I like what he is relative to who he is. I like this relative to who these players are. I don't think Mark Canha is great, but I think Mark Canha fucking crushes left-handed pitching. I think he gives you quality. I think he gives you quality at bats.
It's funny. Mark Canha, his OPS plus with the A's was 114. His OPS plus with the Mets was 115. So you know exactly what you're gonna get,
Yeah.
and honestly, I like Mark Cannon. He's
I
fine.
like him.
I'm kind of being an asshole about it, but like those deals, that doesn't nothing to move the needle for me at all on their part.
But while
I would-
Sam Mole is the only guy the Reds have added, like all the Reds have done add a left-handed pitcher.
I know people. I'm with you, but I don't think the Reds should sell. Or buy. I think that's fine for them. You mentioned though, you said, hey, who is the best chance of making the playoffs because of the moves they made? And as of right now, at this very moment, 5:00 on the dot, I have to say it's the Rangers, just because they went out and got Montgomery and they got Scherzer. That's pretty huge, and Stratton.
You know, to me, and it's kind of an easy answer. I think the Astros getting Verlander back is just such a massive move, and I think it stabilizes that rotation, because I have complained on here.
These teams were going to the playoffs if they didn't make those trades, guys.
But would they have won the division? Would they have made it to the World Series? I mean,
I
No,
asked
he didn't
who's
ask that. He did- he
playoff
did some
odds,
playoffs.
and I was specific
Oh,
to
I'm
say
sorry,
who
whose
do you
playoff
think
odds
had
went up? Okay.
has bought their way into the biggest playoff odd increase. You know, the Astros are good. I get what you guys are saying. Those are much bigger moves, much more significant moves, where I looked at the Brewers and thought, okay, they can go toe to toe. We'll flip a coin in the NL Central. Like, I think the Brewers did enough where.
I mean, I have the answer, Carl, but it's not the right. It's not good. It's the Angels, but that's not good. Like,
Is it the Angels?
I guess so. I mean, they've improved. I mean,
Yeah,
they've made the
probably
moves that have put them. Like, to your point, like, who has made themselves into more of a playoff contender to getting there, and it's got to be them. But I still don't think they get there. Like everything they did was malpractice. But
No, the Astros and the Rangers got better than the Angels did.
right,
trade
but
deadline.
the Angels did the most they could to get into to get that last wild card spot. Now, I think it's stupid. Everything they did was idiotic.
right.
But that's probably the team that improved themselves the most. That's a fringe playoff team, I guess, right now. But I don't think they did.
We should add Hubs and let's get the chat going, because this is the first time the full power ranking panel has been live together. The four of us. Let's get Hubs in here.
While you get Hubs in there, quick news here. Trey Mancini was DFA'd.
Okay, good.
Wow.
So
Good.
That could be a pickup for somebody like post deadline.
Yeah, if you need a first baseman with a 640 OPS.
He's been horrible this year, but you know, I could see a team taking a flyer on him, especially one of these small market teams, to kind of fill that spot at first base DH. I don't know.
Man, the Cubs keep making these moves. They just keep. If they're in third place and we're making moves, it's an interesting time to be a Cubs fan. And this is off script for Jed Hoyer and on script for Tom Ricketts and Crane Kenny. Crane Kenny's our business guy. Obviously, Tom Ricketts the owner. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when you've got 0.8% World Series odds to go out and buy.
Yeah.
And not to say that any of the prospects are giving up. The farm system's good enough to have depth to make these moves that they've made. But I don't know. They sent out the lineup earlier, and I'm just being a reasonable baseball fan. This lineup is good enough to compete with the Reds and the Brewers for an NL Central down the stretch if they're playing well. And that's a standard. That's crazy. That's a standard. That's crazy that that's enough to go by.
There's a lot of smoke right now. The Red Sox are doing something.
Now, the Red Sox, would they be able to go get a Dylan Cease, or is that way too much when you say there's smoke?
I don't know. There's no one in the front office is texting reporters back. There's rumors that Chaim Bloom is being very quote unquote creative. I don't know what any of that means exactly, but the Red Sox are in the wind right now with stuff in the last 10, 15 minutes here.
I mean, I would not rule out a potential reunion with Erod.
There she is.
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
Hey,
I miss Kate.
Hubs, good to see you. We just had a brief appearance from Barstool. Kate, who's been your biggest trade deadline
Love Kate.
success story?
It's so hard to pick because there's just so many sports to consume at once, and I'm constantly tracking them all. So off the top of my head right now, it's a Rolodex. Probably Smith.
Thanks, Kate. You look great, by the way. Guys, Kate here in Chicago. Dynamite drop in. Hubs, welcome to the show. The power ranking panel is here, first time ever, live show. The Yankees are doing what? What the fuck?
Per Aaron Boone, you could see everything from nothing to guys leaving to guys coming. So if that doesn't summarize it
is that
best,
really the quote?
yeah. If that doesn't summarize it, I don't know what does. Like, they're the only team right now who hasn't made a trade. They're just
Josh
in total
Harris is
limbo.
the-
They're not even rumored which is fun. What'd you say?
Josh Harrison got DFA'd.
He'll probably be a Yankee. Everyone is DFA'd. They'll just come on down. You're cheap, whatever. They have no direction whatsoever. They don't know whether to buy or sell. So they're just going to do nothing. Harrison Bader's kind of been rumored. Phillies have been interested in him, I think, but he's out of the lineup, which also leads you to believe, hey, maybe something's up. But then they said nothing's up. But then you could also they could just be lying. They're not going to say oh, he might get traded. They're not going to come out and say that. Yeah, they should be dealing. Everyone who's on a 1 year should be gone, and maybe some more guys because there's no trades worth saving this team at this point because no big fish are really out there at the moment that are capable of that. And it is what it is. Happy to be here.
Welcome to the show. Welcome.
Oh boy.
We are 54 minutes away from the trade deadline, and they're pretty hard and fast on that deadline, boys. When that bell strikes zero, it's not, hey, it struck zero, one more deal for the boys.
You see stuff trickle in late, though. I always think the Manny Ramirez deal came in 15 minutes after, because obviously we don't find out until a little bit later, but there are deals that do happen after, we hear about rather after that.
I remember a famous one from several years back. I got a notification at the fucking gas station. The Greinke to the Astros deal was after last second. I think that was a 4 p.m. cutoff or something like that. And that 4:05 that they announced it. So yeah, there's always a few that trickle in in the last few minutes. Yeah. We're going to get a lot of, but like you said, I think we're going to get a lot of buzzer beater deals.
Okay. So
Tigers might be screwed here, Chris, if they can't move Eduardo here. This could really put them in a fucking spot. Because now everyone's saying, the Flaherty price has gone up. The Dylan Cease price has gone up. I don't know if they're going to be able to put together a package for Rodriguez in 65 minutes.
This is just a question that I'll ask just to save my sanity. How come nobody thought to consider until 5:05, an hour before the fucking deadline, maybe this guy won't waive his no trade clause? You had months. They knew this team was going to be sellers on opening day. And now it's, we're an hour away from the deadline. Got to pivot because that's what we always, every fucking year, we always do this assumption that we're the smartest team in the room. We asked, you remember when we tried to trade Matt Boyd 4 years ago? Do you know who we asked for? Gleyber Torres. Gleyber Torres hit 38 home runs that season. They wouldn't have traded Matt Boyd for a fucking bag of condoms. And they fucking asked for Gleyber Torres, and you ended up trading him for nothing. And now 4 years later, you're going through the same shit with Urod. I mean, it's just, to the fact
misplaced anger. You have misplaced anger, Chris, and I'm going to step in here and just say, Chris, I want you to make it through the trade deadline here, big fella. I do.
Yeah.
Although it is a great point, they don't find out till now.
What were you doing? Yeah, I know that's one.
To counter that, though, I would assume any player is trying to leave Detroit. I wouldn't.
Me too.
I wouldn't that wouldn't be a bridge I'd cross either with the team. I'd be like, well, yeah, obviously he's going to waive it. Why wouldn't he want to leave here? So I kind of understand them being confused.
I remember Fred McGriff was originally going to be traded to the Cubs, and he put his no trade clause and said, no, I want to stay in Tampa Bay. And everyone's like, what's wrong with you? Why would you want to stay in Tampa? And then a year later, he did finally go to the Cubs. But a year before, he was supposed to go there, and everyone thought he was crazy. I got to say, choosing the Tigers over the Dodgers might be the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. This guy, I'm now all of a sudden fascinated with Eduardo Rodriguez. I could watch a documentary on Eduardo Rodriguez.
And not to mention, he has an opt-out that he's probably going to use anyway. So what's the point? So you would rather play 2 months of meaningless baseball and for the record, and completely fuck over the team that has you right now. I mean, just
who cares? Who cares if he fucks you over?
Yeah.
Why would he care if he fucks you over? Yeah, but I'm saying he didn't give a fuck. He's not fucking you guys over. He's playing well for you guys. What if he wants to stay because he's pitching well for you guys? And he's like, wait a second, if I could just finish up these 2 months, hit the free agent market, get $100 million and fucking cruise off and see you guys later.
Bro,
I don't want to go pitch for the Dodgers and go play in October and I'm not.
Why?
Hey, it's his job. He's guaranteed to go get a big contract right now. He goes out and shits the bed. I'm not saying I would do this. I'm not saying that I would do this. I'm saying this is just a theory why he would turn down going to LA. Because why would someone stay in Detroit for a fucking last place team when you could go and play for a first place team? I'm with you. It all checks, but I'm just working through this in my head.
I see it the same way, Carl. I see it the same way. hey, I'm going to pitch in like no pressure situations, be able to go deep in games here, just build up my stats here in zero pressure, rather than if I go to LA, I mean, I wouldn't think this, but yeah, it's possible this is what's going through his head. Like you go to LA, like they might pull you after 5 innings if like to get to the bullpen here, to try and shore up a game. I don't know.
They're going to the playoffs. You get to be on the playoffs. That's going to help.
Some guys just want money, Clemmer. They don't want rings.
Guys just wants
I
to
know,
get paid,
Erod
man.
has
It's his
money,
job.
Erod also has those already.
You get more visibility in the playoffs than you do pitching in Detroit, and when the only person who cares is Castellani. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is crazy.
Visibility. You think the other fucking 29 teams aren't watching because it's in Detroit?
They all know who
Visibility
it
to
is.
us
but,
doesn't
like,
mean the market.
You guys know. Oh, stop it. You guys know if you go to October, you can get a higher pay. We've all seen that happen a million times.
Yeah, but we also know if you go to October and you shit the bed and it's like, oh, that guy was just a flash in the pan. Like right now, his market is
didn't hurt
you, Darvish, and
Eduardo
Eduardo Rodriguez cannot be in this. And you know what? It did hurt you, Darvish, because he only got 6 years and $126 million.
Yeah, tough. I hope he can buy lunch after that.
Well,
I think
Eduardo Rodriguez would get
That's a lot
$100
of
million
money.
right now. If he went to the Dodgers and he shit his pants, he would not get $100 million. Right now, the story is that Eduardo Rodriguez is one of the best pitchers available right now. If he opts out and goes into the market.
Do you know what his ERA is since he came off the IL? 4 starts?
Probably 1.6 or something.
5.66. So
Okay.
that's the problem with Erod is he's a fine pitcher. We have gotten the best version of Erod. His value is higher than it will ever be. This actually, in a lot of ways, could not have lined up any better for him to be available. And look, we got 50 minutes. I'm freaking out now. We still have time. I guarantee you there are other suitors for Eduardo Rodriguez because he is a good pitcher and he is a pitcher that will make a team better. So hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully Mike Elias folds or something and we ship him to the Orioles or something. But Jesus.
And let's not lose track the fact that we are now 49 minutes away. The Orioles have done absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Let's not lose track of how horrible that owner is.
Which I sadly predicted like months ago that they would be the one team to look at this and be like, I don't know. It's, we might still be 1 year away or we don't want to spend the money right now or unload the system. I think they're making a great mistake.
The Orioles, this is Patrick Michael says, if the Orioles don't do anything, I'm not going to lose any sleep. All right. You don't get to 24 games over 500 in the AL's best record with terrible starting pitching. Yeah, it's not terrible, but all those guys have hit their inning limits. They just sent down the second best pitcher on the team because of inning limits. And you're going to go into your playoffs with Kyle Gibson, and your team is really good. You do have the best record in the AL. You should be mad they're not making moves to get better because guess what? The Rangers got better. The Astros got better. Everyone around you is getting better, and you are standing in neutral when there are teams that are going to beat the fuck out of you in the playoffs unless you do something in the next 48 minutes.
Yeah, and also
beat the fuck. You know that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'm
Astros go in there with Valdez and Verlander against the Orioles. Carl, who are you going to bet on? Get the fuck out of here.
It's not a bad regular season rotation. Every one of those guys, especially with the innings being where they are at, would get exposed in October. Yeah.
Well, now the price goes up way higher because the Orioles AL pennant. It's all about the pennant, right? Go to the World Series, and they look at the landscape in the American League, and things have changed drastically. Where they are a great story in the AL East, they've done great stuff. If I can look ahead a month right now, I don't know if they're as good as the Astros or the Rangers going into October. So now the pressure is here. Dylan Cease, Hubs, outsider. Would you give up the farm if you were the Orioles for Dylan Cease?
Yeah, for sure. They have plenty of stuff to give up. Like they have a surplus of prospects to deal. Go for it. Yeah, well, no problem. The problem is their owner is more concerned about concerts than winning games. Like that's what it comes back to. That quote. I looked at it the other day. I still couldn't believe it was real. Like that you can't assume. Like it makes perfect sense they haven't done anything. Now maybe they are really pushing for Cease the last minute here. But yeah, if I'm the Orioles, like absolutely, you have to, especially with Tyler Wells. Clearly his innings are catching up to him. The numbers hadn't been good before that. Then he gets demoted. I think you have to add some sort of starting pitcher here. You have to do it.
Could the Red Sox be a suitor for Eduardo?
Well,
No, I don't. The Red Sox are want to trade Verdugo. Like I think Heim is recognized. Like, yeah, this team is like semi more competitive than we thought it would be. But
absolutely.
But at the end of the day, Heim knows that this team doesn't go up against the Astros in the playoffs and the Orioles even, like, or the Rays. Like, so, you know, he's looking to deal for, I don't think they're looking to take in a big, I guess you are right. Erod's going to opt out. So it could just be a 1-year thing. So maybe that does make a little more sense, but I don't know. Maybe they bank on Sale come back. Did we talk about, I just joined, but did we talk about Scherzer's quote about the Mets strategy?
No.
Yeah, so this is a great quote that came out, and Scherzer was talking about the future of the Mets and some of the conversations he had with Billy Epler. Do you have the exact quote in front of you?
I have it right here.
Great quote. Okay.
So this is Max Scherzer on the Mets strategy. I asked kind of what's going on, and Epler's answer was he's now shifting vision, and they're looking to compete now for 2025 and 2026. 2024, it was not going to be a reload situation in New York. So
I would be a lot more concerned about that if Epler was going to be in charge in 2024. He's not.
Right.
It's going to be David Stern. So I don't give a fuck what Epler says.
You
I
said
would
it
be
was
more
like an open,
concerned-
quiet secret. Why is Epler being quoted? Why is Max Scherzer confident?
Because you got to talk to someone. You have to get a
But,
quote
like,
from someone.
So then
Scherzer's not
whoever
talking to
publishes
Stern.
that
Scherzer's
quote
talking
isn't
to Epler.
same. The baseball media knows that Stearns is coming in and Epler's out.
Right.
So who are they fooling with this quote?
Everyone we just talked about it. So everyone. I don't know. Unless you're a Mets fan, you probably don't know about the David Stearns thing. I don't know. I don't know I don't know why anyone would care. I'm confused. This would be a story for anyone.
here's how I take that. And it makes sense that they just dealt Verlander, because if they were trying to reload for 24, Verlander would have stayed. Like, they would have
No.
kept one of those two guys. Yeah, and
Not
they would have kept the
necessarily.
better guy in Verlander. They dealt Scherzer. They got the haul back for him. And then you keep Verlander as a piece for next year, and you try and go at it again. By dealing both those guys, currently Senga's your ace going the next year with who is your two?
No, nobody.
Right. So that's not a situation that you can just snap your fingers and be like, yep, we're back here for 24. If you have Verlander still in the fold, then with Senga, now we're talking like, okay, we shed Scherzer. Now let's go replace him right now. You're trying to replace both those guys and now bump Senga up to a position I don't know if he's capable of being as the ace of that rotation. Yeah, maybe they go out and get Yamamoto from Japan, but to me, dealing both those guys and that quote, those sync up perfectly for me, that they're trying to get prospects, all this. Next year's not going to be great, and then 2025, maybe we see some of those prospects and we spend a lot more money, and then we go for in 25. That makes sense to me.
I got to throw my hat in the ring here, though. Do the trades they just made increase or decrease their chances of making a push at Ohtani? I mean, because I think
More money available. That's the thing too. You got to remember, this not only
Right.
cleared up space from a roster perspective, it cleared up some money too. Even like I
Right.
said, I know we talked about this at the top of the show, but even the Mark Canha deal, they had a $3 million option, a buyout option for him the following year. So we just saved $3 million for next year by trading him. And then, we did save some money with Verlander, did some Scherzer. It also clears up some roster space. I look at next year, if you're a Mets fan, you get what I'm saying. I look at next year's 2005 Mets. That's the year they went out and got Pedro, and they went and became a good team. They won about 85 games, just missed the playoffs. And then it was the next year, 2006, when it all came together. I look at next year, 2024, as being, I don't say a bridge year, but that year where you're kind of get the pieces together. Maybe you challenge for a wild card spot, but you're not in the basement. And in the following years, when you go balls to the wall. But if we go get Ohtani and we go get Urias,
right.
I don't know, or someone like that, there's a lot of starting pitchers in the market next year. And with Cohen's money, I wouldn't rule anything out. And I don't, honestly, with Scherzer and Epler having a conversation, Scherzer's not here anymore, and Epler is going to be kicked downstairs. So I don't give a fuck what either of those guys say.
Right.
Wow.
Ohtani's a
Oh.
Dodger.
He may be. He might be a Mariner, too.
Could be a Cub, could be a Yankee.
No. No.
Could be.
No.
we have
Here comes
No.
Ohtani.
I'm not
Could be
going to play the
Tiger.
fart noise, but Louis Patino is going to the White Sox.
No, I
Louis-
need the fart noise. I need the fart noise.
No,
'cause
that's
people
that's
haven't
not
heard it.
Louis Patino does not get a fart noise. Sorry, Louis.
Can we still talk about him anyways?
We can. 42 minutes away. Louis Patino going from the Rays to the White Sox.
Man, huge deal for what do the Rays get? Cash?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry,
Cash.
Not Kevin.
And they're
Cash.
gonna go out and hire 2 front office guys with that money and win 2 extra games next year because of it.
Yeah.
By the way, I was thinking you brought up Steve Cohen, $3 million, Mark Hanna. We've been recording live now for a little shade under hour 20. In this hour 20, Steve Cohen's made like $8 million in fucking interest. There's just interest, like money just sitting there making money for him. Does he care about Mark Hanna's $3 million? I don't know. The front office does though.
It's not just 3 million. Remember, it's really like 6 million when you consider luxury tax obligations and stuff like that. So every little bit does help. And like I said, the bigger thing to me is it just clears roster space. So
I love Steve Cohen.
To go, oh yeah, it's the best. It's the best.
I think it's great what he did. It's genius what he did. Buying prospects like this, that's how that's their way of replenishing, man. Like these guys weren't going to get you on your own. Hey, we'll pick up half the check. Did we find out what they gave to Houston? What the money was?
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
It was 58 million, 58% of the deal. So it's
that's like what, $50 million, something like that.
Yeah, because they owed him 93, and yeah. So it's a lot
Let me tell you, I'm not like Tommy, Chris, where like I wake up every day and root for the Mets' demise. I always say like I hate the Red Sox and Astros way more than you guys. Like if I have to worry about you guys, I mean, you believe this or not, if I have to worry about you guys, that means I'm in the World Series facing in the Subway Series. Like I really just don't. You guys taking Drew Gilbert from the Astros makes me happy because I did not like that guy was going to be a terror for me. He is awesome. That is as good as you guys could have done for Verlander and the other guy as well. But Drew Gilbert is special. So
this is some breaking news here from Greggy Gabagool. He ate 4 Celeste pizzas today and just pooped his pants by accident. So that's that's some breaking news there from Greggy.
Gabagool. 4 slices is a lot. I had a single pepperoni slice. Let's slice this up real quick. Is there a National League West team that you think
You all right, Clemmer?
should be sellers?
That I think should be sellers.
I'm just gonna say it. What's going on? Get Poopy Pants back over here. What's he think of the Padres shitting their pants this season?
What's Gabagool thing? Hey, Greggy, what'd you take on Eduardo not going to the Dodgers?
We want to know what this guy thinks about the Padres. The Padres have a 40% chance of making the playoffs today. They're 52-55. Games had not been played. A lot of people thought they'd be sellers.
Yeah, they should have been.
No,
They bought Rich Hill. I'm still waiting for them to go 20-20, like 20-2 over a 22 stretch.
I thought last night was going to be, their first 4-game winning streak of the. I watched the game. Bases loaded, nobody out. Come on, guys. Jeez Louise. Oh.
That game, that was one of the biggest shit show games of the entire season. I mean, that 10th inning was spectacular. My issue with them, I feel like this is the issue I have with teams that sometimes just decide last minute to be buyers. So they just swept the Rangers, right? Which I think was the ultimate reason why they said, okay, let's keep some guys around. Let's maybe add. So if they would have swept the Rangers in mid-April, they'd be sellers. But because they just swept a really good team in late July, they decided, okay, well, let's add a few pieces. I'm not saying they needed a full fire sale. In fact, they're given the contracts that have been given out. I don't really feel like that was possible. You can't trade Bogarts, you can't trade Darvish. But to me, it was as simple as I think that they could have got a really solid, like a few close to major league ready prospects back for Blake Snell, who is pitching the best baseball at least since he won the Cy Young, maybe of his entire career. I think that it would have been advantageous just to reload there because you're probably going to lose them anyway in free agency. But that they decided to add. I feel like they're too far back, but I kind of felt that way a little bit last year too, when they ended up making their run through October. So
can I get some clarification on the Verlander money? He's owed $58 million in 2020, the rest of this year and next year. The Mets will pay $35 million of that. If the option in 2025 vests, the $35 million option, which it likely will, the Mets will pick up half of that, $17.5 million. Total being $52.5 million, all of which does count, Carl, against the luxury tax. So that's $52 million that we are basically buying prospects for, and I could not be happier.
Good quick math by me. Back to the Padres. The reason they don't do the Snell move is, one, the teams in front of them are not daunting to hop. You're talking about the Marlins, the Brewers, the Cubs. the Padres look at their roster and be like, hey, guys, it's 5 games. We can hop. We have 2 months here. We can do this. Also, you're saying they can get back MLB, close to MLB talent, MLB level prospects. They don't care. Preller doesn't care about that. Preller gave up the whole farm for Juan Soto to like completely go for this thing and give the fans something that, fill the ballparks up and go for it. Yeah, you're going to lose Snell unless they really are crazy and pay him too. But they're not dead here. And they've shown some signs of life a little bit lately. Juan Soto has completely woken up here. Machado, they need to get Bogarts really good. I don't know what's going on there, but I think he leads the lead in double play balls. But I think they can. I think they could still make a run. Maybe it's just me looking at that roster, and I won't be deterred. But I don't hate it. I see those teams in front of them, and I'm just not scared. And I think they can sneak in. And if they sneak in, then it's anyone's ball game. It's all
honestly, listening to you talk about it, the more I do understand that, Hubs, because quite frankly, when you look at the way this season has played out for them, if you would have told me these would have been the storylines, I would have said, holy shit, the Padres are going to be great. Like the year Soto's had. Quietly, Ha-Seong Kim is like in the MVP conversation and nobody talks about it. He's tied for the National League lead and wins above replacement. Like Snell's pitched out of his mind. They just suck in close games and they don't win extra inning games. They're like
crazy.
If they're 4-6 in extra inning games, it changes the dynamic of their entire season, which lends you to believe that at some point, September, August, water will find its level there, but I keep waiting for it to do so, and it hasn't so far. So they
have the 5th best run differential in baseball.
Yeah, with a ton of all-stars.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, they just, I think Clemmer and I ran through some of the clutch stats and some of the amazing things, like they're dead last in runners in scoring position. They're dead last in any offensive metric, inning 7, 8, 9. But when they beat teams, they smash them. And when they lose in just such horrific ways. But that's a team I'm circling now, under 500, have looked bad all year. That roster is so good they can make a World Series. Like that, the lineup is good enough. Bringing up Ha-Seong Kim, thank you. Flew under the radar he was so good last year. I was surprised that they went out and fucking paid all the money. What do you got?
No fart noise, but Tommy Pham left the clubhouse in street clothes. So
I think they said the Phillies.
He could just be. He could just be going for a walk. Tommy Pham's a weird guy.
Yes.
You never know, right? Maybe he's trying to find Mike Trout.
He could be anticipating that he is getting traded.
Jock Peterson is just hunting down. Yeah, we don't know. I have a question for you guys. Astros. If you're an Astros fan, is there any element of you that's a little bit pissed off that you could have just signed Verlander in the offseason instead of dealing 2 of your top 4 prospects for a guy you could have just signed?
I was working.
Are there any Astros fans that are super pumped that you get Justin Verlander back and all you had to do is give up 2 prospects while you got Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez?
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, Carl. If I was an Astros fan, there'd be a small percentage of me being like, really? We had to give away 2 top prospects just because our owner was kind of being a poor?
Being a poor? It's not that he's poor. He's cheap. He just fires guys. Lunau wanted more than not Lunau. Who was the GM who wanted more than $1 million? He's like, see you later, pal. So, yeah, no, I think the smart Astros fan should be disappointed. If Castellani was an Astros fan, he'd be pissed.
I mean, they got their guy back. I think that one thing that gets lost in this is that the Astros, for a period of time in the offseason, did not have a GM. And I think that may have skewed some of their decision-making. Ultimately, they brought in Dana Brown, really good baseball pedigree. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. But I think that they were kind of, in a lot of ways, like asleep at the wheel for a second. Maybe the dynamic would have been different had they brought Dana Brown in before Verlander hit the free agent market. But yeah, I mean, it all worked out in the end for them.
Here's the thing. I get frustration because you love Drew Gilbert, right? Like he was number 1 prospect in their system, has all the makings of being like, he's super young still. Like he's going to be a star, but at least your front office was like, observant enough to reverse course, be like, you know what? We could still use Verlander. Like, let's bring him back here. And we are all of a sudden very much still a World Series contender. We shore up the rotation, and here we go again. The Mets, I'll compliment them here. They realize this roster is going nowhere currently. We have no prospects. Let's reverse course on the signings that we just made the last few years, and let's go get some prospects, and let's pump this away. And then you look at a team like the Yankees, who don't know how to do that. They're just stuck. Whereas like the Astros and Mets go in different ways, but we're able to recognize situations, be like, this ain't working. Let's make this better. Yankees don't do that. So I admire the Mets and Astros front offices for their ability to reverse course.
I think that's part of Yankees culture. I've heard from a player that like when you go into their clubhouse and you think Jeter's like gonna come out from one of the bathroom stalls. That's how people carry themselves, as if it's still 1999. What do we got? What do we got? Big trade.
Small one. Rangers are getting Austin Hedges from the Pirates.
There's their catcher.
That's defensive-minded catcher. I think he'll fit in fine there because of how good that offense is, especially if Seager comes back. But he's like one of the worst hitting like offensive players of the last like decade. But
what a downgrade from Jonah Heim.
Yeah, that's tough.
Does Austin Hedges have any experience with guys in that rotation?
Play with the Padres,
anybody?
Guardians, Pirates.
Not really.
So
nope.
No, not that I can think of. No.
Nothing like a Bruce Bochy protege or somebody who came highly recommended. I hate adding catchers at a trade deadline. I mean, they have to because of an injury, but catchers
so
at a
hard
trade deadline is
though.
just a disaster. Yeah.
It's so thin. It's like, you're picking from him and Clemmer's guy, right? Omar Narvaez, right?
Yeah.
That would be the only, there's like very few guys that you just got to get somebody, especially because Clemmer, you think, what?
Austin Hedges is his best batting average since 2019. He's batting 180.
He ain't.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
It's a hard game.
It's a hard
right?
game. Yeah, that's certainly true.
We are at 30 minutes left, boys. 30 minutes left.
And you don't even see a rumor about the Yankees. That's the latest thing I have with the Yankees is Harrison Bader's signing autographs on the field. So, I mean, I don't think you're doing that if you're being traded in full uniform.
Anything from the Reds?
No.
All quiet on the Cincinnati front.
Everyone wants to get mad at me for not liking the Reds, but maybe you should, your own GM isn't very confident in your team.
Let's talk about the Braves for a second. Brad Hand, Nicky Lopez. We haven't talked about the Braves. We had said in the trade deadline preview show that if the Braves didn't make any moves at all, no one's downgrading their World Series odds, casually amongst us. We're not saying, if they didn't do shit, they're on the way out. But they did. I liked what they did with Brad Hand. And I like what they're doing with Nicky Lopez because Lopez doesn't have to play every day. The Royals used him in the outfield this year. He's got extremely high contact rate. His walk rate's up through the roof this year. He can sit for 2-3 days. He can come in a seventh inning. He can give you one really good plate appearance after not having, been in any game action. So as far as the Braves are concerned, the number one team in baseball for us, 2 very small moves, but I think they're huge value additions. I don't know. I know Brad Hand. I shouldn't say that about Brad Hand. Somebody has to start talking about Brad.
I'm ready. I'm ready whenever you're ready.
Fucking lay it on me.
Yeah. 2 things. One, can't you just see Frank the Tank screaming about Nicky Lopez? Like how they turned Nicky Lopez into just a fucking superstar somehow, just a contact machine, hitting 300, all this. Brad Hand makes the Braves worse. Let's be real.
Wow.
Brad Hand is a horrific pitcher and not a guy you want pitching in any big situations, big moments, not a guy that instills fear in any batter whatsoever. It's amazing he's still pitching and being wanted.
I was
very bad.
He fuck your ex-girlfriend?
I just don't like him.
What's going on here?
I'm not a Brad Hand guy.
Ross Stripling?
Not a Brad Hand guy.
Ross Stripling sucks. But Brad Hand isn't so bad. He's fine. He's not good, but he's fine. No,
he's not good.
He's been serviceable in Colorado this year for FIP right around 4, high strikeout rate over 10 per 9, but pitiful postseason pitcher, 7.88 ERA in 10 postseason appearances with multiple teams too, Cleveland and then Philadelphia. So I don't think their bullpen's relatively deep. I don't think that he'll pitch the highest of leverage innings for them, but we'll see.
The Braves last year with Jesse Chavez is a good example. There's something magical about when you go down to Atlanta. If you're a reliever, you've struggled other places, Yeah,
if they turn Brad Hand into not even service, like they turn him into a reliable arm, investigate the entire organization.
Well, they've gotten a very good year. They've gotten a very good year out of Joe Jimenez this year too, from the Tigers. That was a trade.
Yeah.
Why isn't Daniel Bard in any trade conversation? Is he hurt?
Because it's the Rockies.
No, he pitched yesterday.
Why is no one even saying his name? And has anybody got an update on David Bednar from the Pirates? I would imagine Bard would be. His numbers are great. He's got a contract he's signed next year. Do the Rockies think they're going to compete next year and they want that closer for next year?
I'm impressed they traded Grichuk. Like I didn't think they had it in them to deal Grichuk. Like good for them for at least doing. Oh, there it is.
No.
Why do they do this?
Thank you for what?
If you're
You get 16 starts.
That's awesome. That's made my day. I'm having a horrible day. That's made my day. That's hilarious.
if you can't
Thank
if you
you,
can't
Justin
tell
Verlander.
from if your picture is limited and you're only listening to this on YouTube or whatever capacity, the Mets sent out a thank you graphic tweet. Hey, Photoshop a picture of Justin Verlander over New York.
I'm crying. That's amazing.
So weird. So stupid.
Why is that?
Who is that for? Is it for
Yeah,
us
right?
to make fun of?
Why?
Like, what are we doing?
There needs
the
to
way-
be. Yeah,
Yeah,
go. No,
no,
go ahead.
go.
Well, no, I'm saying there needs to be some sort of like restrictions regarding when athletes can be thanked by an organization. Like, because we DFA'd guys who got like thank you tweets from the Tigers in recent years. Like, I think there needs to be some sort of cutoff of like you had to have at least done X thing in order to earn a thank you in the fucking paper on Twitter or whatever.
They did a thank you to Max Scherzer a couple days ago. I didn't have a huge problem that he had started a
I
playoff game for us.
get
I was like,
that.
all right, fine. Verlander was here for 16 games. He won 6 of them and was nice. Fine, I guess. Like, you could argue Daisuke Matsuzaka did more for the Mets than Justin Verlander did. For real.
Verlander has more history pitching in Yankee Stadium playoffs, like pitching in Yankee Stadium in the playoffs for other teams than he does in New York with the Mets.
He gets to do it again, but Friday we get Verlander. Hell yeah.
Can I just add to the point you made about Daniel Bard? Looking at his numbers, my guess is the Rockies may have a relatively high asking price considering the fact that his ERA in Colorado is 2.87. In fact, last year 1.79. His peripherals are horrible. He has a 2.87 ERA and a FIP over 5 in Colorado. He's walking this season in 37 appearances, 8 hitters per 9 and striking out 7.9. So I think that is those peripherals would allow a competitive team, especially unless they're just completely thin in terms of bullpen in the bullpen department, probably preventing them from taking a flyer out on somebody like Daniel Bard.
I got a little report here. Joel
Fart
Sherman.
noise?
No. These are real people that it matters.
I know, but if I make the fart noise when there's a trade, is there a trade?
No. Just expectation from Joel Sherman. The Cardinals will still trade Flaherty, perhaps in conjunction with Carlson or O'Neill. The Dodgers still want to add a starting pitcher. Perhaps the Braves too. So maybe Atlanta is doing one more thing, which I would like. Flaherty's a nice little piece for them if they were to add that. But yeah, the Dodgers want pitching as well.
If you're the Orioles and the Braves go out and get Flaherty, do you storm Camden Yards and like is it like what do you do? Like I'm so perplexed at what they're doing or not doing in Baltimore. It's shocking.
And every player in that clubhouse is sitting around waiting for news to come because they're like, dude, we're playing our fucking dicks off. So who's the pitcher? Is it going to be Cease? Do you think it's going to be the guy from the Tigers that we used to fucking like? If you are a player for the Orioles and you aren't getting the action, forget being a fan. That clubhouse is going to be irate if they show up tomorrow and there hasn't been one starting pitcher added to the fucking mix.
Dude, they said it last night before the Yankee game started that they were talking to Brandon Lau and they were like, hey, what was the vibe with, getting Savali? And he goes, yo, we were fired up. Like, let's go. They believe in us. Like, they think this guy adds us to the World Series puzzle. Like, this adds to it. Like, let's go. Like, this is go time here. That's the vibe that you're going to get in Baltimore. But if you don't, it's the complete opposite. It's like, that wasn't enough to this first place in fucking August isn't enough to add. Like, that is such a message to the team of how cheap that owner is. You have to do something.
My guy Meach, once again, a good chat here. Quintana is a sneaky piece. Absolutely right. Jose Quintana, he's signed for next year at $10 million next year, I believe. You got to own probably like 4 this year. That's $14 million. I know it's not glamorous, but if you want a 4th or 5th starter, like something the Orioles should be desperately trying to do, that's what you do. You go and get Jose Quintana or Jack Flaherty or just get somebody for. The Angels did what the Orioles should have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough.
So right now, as it stands, we're out on the Orioles.
I'm
out.
Yeah.
They don't make a move, I'm out.
Here. There's not much time left. And I will say this, it's been a very quiet hour. I think we're in for a wild, I'll say 40 minutes, because like I said, stuff usually trickles through after that deadline. But the next 40 minutes, but buckle your seatbelts, kids. This could get nuts.
Woo. You sound like just a guy hyping it on a commercial, like praying that something's happening.
I am absolutely praying because I'll be very sad if nothing happens. Because I love the trades. If nothing happens, we're all going to go home sad. Well, you won't go home. You're always miserable, Hubs. The other three of us will go home sad, because we feel emotion.
Clemmer's gutted out a couple tough weeks, months, moments, an entire season of the Mets for this trade deadline. If somebody doesn't completely risk the next 3 to 5 years of their organization on a wild card spot, Clemmer will not be happy.
Yeah, I want to see the big swings. I want to make fun of teams. I want to, applaud teams. This is what I live for. This shit, man. This is the best.
Yeah, it's like as stupid as the Angels are for not trading Shohei Ohtani. It'd be even more mad if they were just silent about it and didn't do shit. Like, at least we got a good chance to sit down, rip the Angels, tear them apart. What do we got here? Thank you, David Robertson.
No.
Graphic. Thank you, Max Scherzer, Mark Canha. Is that an Instagram post?
Looks like
That's
Twitter.
Nice. I want to play for the Mets.
It's been quite a couple weeks here.
Do you think they'll send a thank you Frank Fleming tweet? Or
They
like
should.
do you think they'll ever recognize him formally? I saw a great moment where Steve Garvey told him the other day, he's a huge fan of his work. It's a big moment for you Mets fans.
Colton Wong has been on the hug watch. He's been seen hugging teammates. Colton Wong probably out the
He's got
door.
a sub 60 OPS plus this year.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's been the
been
worst hitter in
bad.
baseball.
Oh, Anthony Rizzo got to be worse than him. But yeah, sure.
No, he's not. No, Colton Wong is somehow worse, I think. I mean,
Over the last 2 months, take out the first 2 months. Last 2 months, I bet Rizzo's been worse than him.
Tyler O'Neill rumored on the trade deadlock next to Jack Flaherty. I don't know if that got brought up with Dylan.
Yeah, that
Carlson,
was
but now Tyler
that
O'Neill's
was
name is in
they
it.
thought those two guys might be paired with Flaherty.
everyone's saying
Tyler
he's not
O'Neill
a
has
fit.
huge upside. Huge upside.
Huge arms.
Everyone's saying Tommy Pham is most likely going to the Twins, but I'm not going to do any fart noise yet because that has not been clarified. But
Can
Pham
the
going
Twins-
to the Twins would be interesting.
Can the Twins get him and still would they trade Sonny Gray if the package was right?
The Twins aren't trading Sonny Gray.
No.
I mean, if that happens, I don't know. I'll do something stupid. Like that's just not going to happen. I'll say eat my shoe. I don't want to eat a shoe. I don't see the Twins trading Sonny Gray. That wouldn't make any sense on any level.
What if they traded your boy Bailey Ober?
Why?
Would you still take his overs?
No, he fucked me over this week. So I don't know. Me and Bailey are not on speaking terms right now.
We did not bring up. We're not bringing up the streak or the. We're not talking about that right now.
Well, I won
Clemmer's
on
a
Sunday.
little
I
cold.
watched-
Clemmer's a
I
little
watched
cold.
it today. By the way, Alex Cobb has a 109 ERA at home this year. Just saying.
He's been
No,
fantastic.
Who brought up
Yeah,
Alex Cobb?
I did because it's my pick of the day.
Do you like a good Cobb salad? Cobb or Caesar?
No, I don't like. It has egg in it, right?
Yeah. Wedge, Castellani, you a wedge? You go full wedge?
I'm not a big fucking salad guy. I don't. Do I give off salad vibes? Sorry, that was too aggressive. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I don't like salad. Fucking vegetables.
Bread salad with like Italian dressing is fantastic. I don't like the blue cheese. Give me the bacon on the salad with the Italian dressing. Now we're talking.
Simple. The iceberg. Light crunch. It's the trade deadline, guys. We are under 17 minutes away from this trade deadline. Our butts are clinched. I don't want another fucking reliever. I don't need another utility, not a backup catcher. I want big arms, big action, multiple prospects. Can I get a 3-teamer? Anybody, at least a 3 or a 4-teamer? Is that what we're talking about when we say Heim's getting creative? Is he in the
that's what I was
back end
thinking.
getting the 5-6 guys together?
It's a good point. Have we gotten a 3-team deal yet?
No, we haven't gotten. I will say like it's been, especially today, has really been quiet. I had some haters were saying that this was going to be a very quiet deadline. I told them no. I see Verlander getting moved is a big deal, but after that, it has been pretty quiet.
Yeah, it's been really quiet. Nothing. We knew Verlander was getting traded today.
John Morosi, by the way, saying Mets active on trade negotiations with multiple players. Brooks Raley, we talked about him. Adam Ottavino, I don't know what the market would be for him. He stinks. And Tommy Pham, who's very good.
Well, those are all guys who are up at the end of the year, correct?
Ottavino might have an option for next year. Pham definitely is. and
so-
Rayleigh is under control for next year.
Anyone who is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, trade him.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know-
like if there's a market for him, you can find a guy like that. Plus, remember, Brooks Rayleigh, he got a very late start. I believe he's 35 years old, so he's not like like when you think of Brooks Rayleigh, I think someone much younger because he came up so late, but he's actually pretty old.
Yeah, he spent a good chunk of time in Korea
That's right, Carl. Yep, absolutely.
learning, pitching 200 innings a season and coming back. Great two-way player out of Texas A&M. Started Friday nights and played center field. So I like seeing those guys stick around their 40s. Okay, we are within 15 minutes now. It's the 15-minute mark. What about the Blue Jays doing something fucking crazy?
Well,
Yeah.
they did get DeJong, and they were in on ICAF before that to sure up. Although Bichette got good news. I'm sure you guys talked about that, but
did, yeah,
he's in the clear with the knee. At least they addressed it, just in case. Smart team. Yankees haven't addressed left field or third base in 3 years, so that's good.
And
Carl,
they did. They got. Or go
Well,
ahead.
The Cubs, Carl. This is a team that is probably in it. They're not moving Bellinger. They're not moving Stroman. I'd like to see them add the piece. No, you want them just to stand? What's your take on this?
Oh well, they got Jamer.
They did.
Yeah.
That's true, and that was a big piece. That's a big right. Do you
They
want them to do
DFA'd
something else?
Mancini, so I would like a pure first baseman on the roster. They just won't do it. Matt Mervis was not a good audition. His first taste of big league baseball. Eric Hosmer got DFA'd. Mancini got DFA'd today, so they're going to have Heimer played a little bit. Sounds like a spell of it, and then Bellinger will play most of the first base the rest of the season, and they are chasing the Central with the hopes of being good enough in this chase to land amongst the wild card. I was very vocal about it, got crushed for this, but I hated the fact they didn't trade Cody Bellinger for the world. Hated it because, I look at a sub 1% chance to win a World Series, and all I think about is driving that thing up and making it consistently up. And how do you get that fucking thing up? And so it's a good farm system. It's not great. They could use some high impact players. And Cody Bellinger is fucking good enough for these last 2 months where they could go add someone or two arms or something enough to just continue to push and drive competition at the minor league level and at that pre-arbitration level of guys wanting to be there and compete with each other. And their Cubs are so far fucking away from that. And this season, and this is where I challenge myself, because talking to you guys so much about baseball and doing this from a national level, I'm not an asshole about where I think the Cubs stack up against the other 29 fucking teams in the league. If I only did a Cubs podcast, I didn't know what was going on with the rest of the league, it's like the complete opposite though. All I'm doing is talking about the league. So now when I go look at the Cubs and what they do and I watch them, I'm like, I don't know, man. You're not even better than the Brewers and the Reds.
Wow.
Even after buying. Are we really? Are we? I know we are, and we can be, but in the wins and losses, it's so difficult and hard to figure out that the best way for me to put it is they're not ready. This club isn't ready. What?
It's brutal to see that, they went on that winning streak just before it snapped. 80% of those games were against the Cardinals. It's and the other White Sox,
White Sox, yeah.
the front office has to kind of realize that. You would think it'd be guys, we're not going to beat the Braves. We can't take a game off the Braves here. So, yeah, but I guess they're just saying, fuck it. Here's Candelario.
But as a
let's get
fan,
fans
here you
in the
go.
stands here. Right. The fans are in the stands. Let's get this going here.
Yeah, but I don't know. If you win the division, that's something, though.
Tommy Pham, Diamondbacks. Done.
Diamondbacks.
Wow.
Wow. All right.
Tommy Pham to the Diamondbacks.
Good for Arizona. Good for Arizona.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
you
it.
could-
Did you guys ever hear about the time Tommy Pham slapped somebody over a fantasy football trade? Hilarious story.
Pham
Yeah.
has been sensational for us this year. One thing about Tommy Pham is he got up to a really bad start in Miami. He got his eyes fixed, right? He had a laser, he had contacts and that. And ever since then, he's been awesome again. So I think Tommy Pham is a legitimate bat for the Diamondbacks. He's been really good for the Mets this year. I don't know if it'll continue, but what a signing that was. As much as I knock Epler for being an idiot, they signed him for $6 million, and I don't know what we're getting back, but he was worth every penny.
Bad
Only a
fielder.
1 year deal, right?
Pretty bad fielder.
Yes.
It was okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
he's not. He's very bad defensively, and in fact, he's so bad he can't play right. He can only play left.
could he DH for the Diamondbacks? Do they have somebody, or well, who DHs for him? God damn it, Gurriel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that might make things a little bit. That might
Yeah,
make
it
things.
would.
Veteran presence. If you're a Diamondback youngster,
Okay, this is
you're not adding Tommy Pham for any other reason than he's better on the field. There's none of this clubhouse warmth to bring the guys together. He's a good guy down the stretch. This is like just a pure. He's as much of a mercenary as it gets in Major League Baseball.
The return is Jeremy Rodriguez.
Okay. I don't know anything about him. I'd be lying if I said I did. I'll take a look.
Yep.
Though.
Another-
Jeremy Rodriguez?
What is
Not-
it?
yeah.
Shortstop, 23-year-old shortstop out of some SEC school.
Not sure. Orioles are here. We go. Orioles did it. Flaherty. Orioles are close to acquiring Jack Flaherty.
Or close. We don't do the fart noise if it's close.
I mean, that's when you see that though.
well,
Unless
we
it's Erod.
have to have confirmation. This is a professional stream, Hubs.
This is from Ken Rosenthal.
Whoa, professional.
Ken is firing off. Ken also said, now we'll talk about Flaherty in a second, but Dodgers are also talking to the Red Sox about James Paxton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that this is that has to be a clear pivot following the
Erod.
went down with Erod. Yeah, and I like Paxton. Paxton could be good for them too. Yeah.
Okay, Flaherty is an Oriole. Jeff Passan.
Jack Flaherty to the Orioles.
Hey, they did
Ugh.
something. All right.
That's all they're
It is
gonna do.
something
But
I
that's
will
all they're
say
gonna
it is-
do.
It is the weakest something.
Yeah.
Jack
Bare
Flaherty has
minimum.
major control issues, only signed for the rest of the year. He is an arm. He's exactly what the Orioles need. I love Flaherty if you told me they got somebody else as well. You know what I mean? If you get Cease and Flaherty, holy shit, let's go. But just Flaherty is an improvement, but I wanted a lot more.
It's better than nothing, and they were on pace for doing nothing until 30 seconds ago, so you got to take that. But yeah, maybe Cease is also in the move. I don't know.
Jeremy Rodriguez is a 17-year-old shortstop. He's not listed in their top 30 from the pipeline I'm looking at. Oh, I'm
He
sorry.
can't be. He's only 17. No one
yeah,
sees
he's
kid do
super young.
shit.
Yeah,
Feinstein is saying there was growing buzz that Cease is traded in the next 10 minutes.
He's got to be. He's got
Dodgers and Orioles seen as favorites if he's moved.
Dylan Cease has to be traded. It must happen. It must happen. If Flaherty goes now, then you have 10 minutes to drive that price up.
So
How many telephones do they have in the conference room?
Who starts
all
game
of them.
one for the Orioles?
Double barrel.
Who starts game one for the Orioles?
Fucking not Jack
Bradish?
Flaherty.
No.
Bradish.
No.
Bradish?
The best of the healthiest and the best of the crop that got him there at this point.
Bradish, Flaherty, and Gibson? Is that your? Do you go with Grayson? Will he even be able to pitch with the innings limits?
Yeah, he's got to pitch this October.
Here's a fun one.
He's got to be walking around all December and January thinking about his playoff start.
5:52 p.m. Eastern. Is the Orioles game one starter on their roster right now?
No, it's Dylan Cease.
Do you
I'm
think it's Dylan Cease?
calling my shot right now, Dylan Cease to the
I'm going to
Orioles.
say yes, he is on the roster. I don't trust this ownership to do the right
Yeah,
thing.
I feel like they're done. Yeah.
And they're going to say, "Oh, we got Jack Flaherty. Look what we did."
No, that's why they did the Flaherty. They did the Flaherty
We
move
got
10
Kyle
minutes
Gibson.
before the deadline so that they can measure fan reaction.
Yeah,
They're on
like,
Instagram
what else
right
we got?
now.
Yeah.
We need to do another one, and all the fans are going, "Come on, we need more." And the front office is going, "They're saying on Instagram we need more." Peter,
They got 7 minutes, Carl. They don't have time to test it. The deal has to already have a framework, or else it's not going to happen. We got 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Like,
would you give up? Would you give up the Herstad kid for Dylan Cease?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because he has control. He has control.
That's a 1-for-1. Yeah, of course. It's going to take
Right.
more than that, though. I think, right?
I thought Kerstad was like their top hitting prospect after Jackson Holiday, and I'm not even saying Jackson Holiday because if they trade Jackson Holiday, I'll fucking
They won't.
They're
They
not
won't.
trading Jackson.
I'll eat
No.
his shoe.
Cease is under control for 2 more years after this one. So yeah, it's going to take I
Eating
think
the
more
shoe,
than.
eating the shoe.
Let's go. I'm eating a fucking shoe.
I'm getting my Brian Cashman sleeping picture ready to get tweeted out here.
This is the Barstool Baseball trade deadline show. We've been going an hour 53 here, guys, coming into the trade deadline. And a reminder, you guys are going to want to tune into the podcast tomorrow. We're going to do just a brief recap. Instead of publishing the 2.5 hours of this, we're going to come back and circle up. So
I like this.
subscribe,
I
check
like
it
this
out.
tweet by MLB Network. The Orioles add a big arm to their rotation, reportedly acquiring Jack. Big arm, get the fuck out of here, MLB Network. I get their company men, but stop. Like, who are you fooling with that?
He doesn't have a big arm. He pitches in the big leagues.
I get well, all right. So then, but that Austin Hedges was a giant move, Carl. Like, he's got a 155 whip. Like, what are we
They didn't
doing?
say it was a big move. They said
So stupid. I hate everything.
this has been a fun trade deadline. We did not think it would be the Mets selling, the Yankees not doing jack shit, and Eduardo Rodriguez wouldn't get on a fucking move while the Cubs are buyers. How about that?
Hey, Eduardo, you want to go to LA? No, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay in Detroit. So
that is going to be, once again, we put ourselves at the center of nonsense. That's going to be the story of this entire deadline.
It really will be, Chris. Congratulations.
Right. No, because per usual, we're a national joke because everyone's going to look at this and say, wow, the Tigers fucked this up, which we on pending 5 minutes, they did. I mean, this is just unbelievable. You had no plan B. I mean, this is straight out of the fucking Avila era.
Maybe he's got a girl in Detroit.
Colton Wong, by the way, was DFA'd by the Mariners. Red Sox and one other team's trying to trade for him.
It's like Colton Wong just got you. No, actually, you got.
Yeah,
he
no one
doesn't
wanted you, Colton.
No.
So you are gone.
We are under 5 minutes here, guys. 4 minutes. 4 minutes and counting, to be honest.
Anyone get a kick out of when John Heyman just tweets something 20 minutes after the trade goes down? I love it.
With slight clarification. So it'll be like,
yeah,
it'll be like Verlander really wanted the deal to the Mets.
this one,
John
he just
Heyman
goes,
walked
Tommy, Tommy Pham goes to D-backs just now. That was 5 to 10 minutes ago.
Bob Nightingale had one. Didn't Bob?
Well,
Bob
Bob thought Brad Hand played for the wrong team last year.
Hey, this is
I thought
it's
Brad
not
Hand
just a
pitched
tough
well
sport. It's tough to cover, too. It's tough
He
to
also
play, it's
thought
tough to
Logan
cover.
Gilbert got traded from the Astros and not Drew Gilbert.
Bob Nightingale must be horrible at Immaculate Grid. He thinks everyone's in the wrong teams and a lot of
Bob Nightingale is supposed to be a legendary hang. He's supposed to be an we'll go out on a Tuesday night till 3:00 in the morning with like a stranger type stuff.
I would assume
he's supposed to be a legendary dude.
explains his tweets.
I would assume he's drunk 24/7. Yeah, he's got to be drunk 24/7.
He hangs out a lot. He's a real good hang, Hubs. That's what I've heard from a couple guys in Scottsdale that like run in the same social circle as Bob Nightingale. That Bobby's just like, if you wanted to have a good time, you could text Bobby and say, "Hey, what are you doing
We
tonight?"
have a trade. A Yankees
Let's go!
trade. Yankees are acquiring right-handed reliever Kenyon Middleton from the White Sox.
All right, projectability. Do we like this, Hubs?
Congratulations,
Oh, my
Hugs.
God. They're
Your
such
team is so
losers,
pathetic.
man. They're such losers, man.
We got Stefan from the IT room out of New York and Chicago. So he's walking around in a Reds jersey all day, hoping the Reds do something. They got Sam Mao, left-handed reliever. That's it. But we do have Reds fans here, Gooch and Stefan. So we do have a couple.
I hope Reds fans can no longer be mad at me. Their ownership feels the same way about the team that I do. They have no confidence in the Reds. None.
Who the fuck is Kenyon Middleton?
Oh, you don't know Kenyon Middleton? Well, Kenyon Middleton is with the White Sox right now. He's a 3.96 ERA. He has 2 saves.
3 inning saves, by the way. Not even good ones.
2 saves.
Boys, we're under 2 minutes here. This is a 2-minute drill. Quick classic 2-minute drill. I read.
All right, who gets moved? I think Cease gets moved.
Cease has to. Cease
And I
has to
think
get moved.
Eduardo
here.
Rodriguez is now permanently in Detroit forever.
And I think the White Sox are just waiting to figure out there's 2 teams in on Cease right now. The Baltimore Orioles and the Los Angeles Dodgers. No, the Baltimore Orioles and who? Who is in on Dylan Cease? Who's my mystery team?
Dodgers and Orioles. That's
Dodgers, Orioles.
We got a very small trade. Clever.
No.
Phillies are trading Bailey Falter
Yeah.
for Rodolfo Castro on the Pirates.
You
All
probably
right.
could have not said anything there.
I didn't need that one necessarily. That was a big one. No, there's Phillies guys watching this, waiting. They're hoping that Phillies fan. I go, wow, everybody's buying. Phillies fans are like, you can't believe we're fucking buying this year in the World Series last year. Hey, fuckheads, you guys are what, in 3rd place?
I like Joey R93. Shut up, Clemmer. The Reds have continued to win, and Green and Lodolo on the way back. They're fine. They're fine. Green, by the way, we just put in the 60-day IL. He will not be back until mid-late of August. So he's not fine.
Castellani's having a breakdown, guys. I'm calling it out right here. I've seen it. I've seen breakdowns before. Chris is having full on meltdown. What's up? Let it go.
Dude, I can't. It's just unbelievable. I mean, because the truth is, if there was no announcement, right, and it was just we decided not to trade him, I'd understand it. But with the Erod, it is clear the intention was we got to get rid of this guy. He's peaked. His value's been highest. We got some good baseball out of him. This team's going nowhere. He's probably going to opt out at the end of the year.
Dylan Cease not going to be traded.
No.
Bob Nightingale.
Oh, okay. We're still live.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Live.
That could mean at any moment hit the button.
We are live.
Here we
Why'd
go.
you do that? Why did you do that?
It was fun. I had to. Sorry.
I
guys.
think that as close as like the deadline just hit, you can't report any Nightingale news. He's going to be rushing real quick. Like not and yes could just be
over?
construed.
We are 11.
Deadline's over.
Well, it's not over. I mean, it's over for them. It's not
Correct.
over for us.
I would say give it a little. I'm going to give it like a little
I got
5-minute
15.
window here just to see.
Oh
if
yeah,
there-
no, we have at least
I
15.
got
You
15.
gotta wait 15 because stuff does pop.
Yeah.
It's always the biggest trades. Oh, Dylan Cease staying in Chicago. This is right there with Erod staying in Detroit. If that's the case, like, what are these teams doing? What are the White Sox doing?
I'll tell you why that's different. I'll tell you why it's different. Because I still think and we saw it last year. I think that the White Sox believe there's another gear to Dylan Cease where they could get greater value in a trade, maybe in the offseason, potentially next year at the deadline, where it is clear Erod, who has an ERA of 4 in his career and who is showing clear regression, has pitched the best baseball of his career in May of this season. So it makes a little bit more sense to me not trading Cease.
So the Orioles, we have a return for Flaherty. It's Drew Rom, a left-handed pitcher. Infielder Cesar Prieto. This is the 16th and 18th best prospect in the pipeline for the Orioles.
The Orioles are
obviously,
pathetic
Orioles-
for not getting rid of any of their top 10 guys for some big fucking
Embarrassing.
name.
Not even top
That is
15.
a joke. However, still time. Eduardo Rodriguez to the Orioles is still on the table here, guys. Still on the table.
We're running out of time. We're running out of guys. And who else besides Eduardo is really out there for these teams to get?
Nobody. It's Eduardo Rodriguez, Dylan Cease, and Blake Snell were the only.
And
They
Blake
just
Snell's
showed it.
not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like.
No
I'm
Tim
shocked.
Anderson
So,
moved. No Yohan Moncada moved. Tommy Edmonds not moved. Surprise Tim Anderson didn't get moved. Nothing
no
on him.
Paul
His-
Goldschmidt getting moved. No card. Has any Cardinal other than DeJong been traded today?
Today,
Oh,
no,
Flaherty.
they traded. Flaherty, and they traded Jordan Hicks a few days ago.
Right.
Well,
and
they
traded
can't. They got to win the
Montgomery
division
Cohen.
next year. They got to win the division next year. That's what we said. The St. Louis Cardinals are they're winning the division next year.
Am
That's
I
what they
crazy?
think.
The only team that really improved themselves for the Astros today.
Today, yes. As a whole in the deadline, I think you got it. You have to put the Rangers in there. But if we're just
I'm talking about just today.
okay, well, I do think and we're shitting on them, and we should. I do think the Orioles got better. I don't think they put themselves in World Series position, but I do think Flaherty makes them a tiny bit better.
Well, I mean, in that case, the Marlins got better. The Phillies
I
got
think
better.
the Marlins got better. Yeah, I think the Phillies did. Yeah,
We have
but
a
I-
reason. We have a reason Erod is staying there. It's to be closer to Chris Castellani. No, it's to remain closer to family on the East Coast.
Done. Not a West Coast time zone guy.
Mets made one more little trade. Dominic
They did.
Leone goes to the Angels.
Dominic Leone is awful. He is a horrible pitcher. He's been so bad for us. Any sort of leverage situation at all, he just completely poops the bed. Angels are wild. This is a wild team that stinks.
The Angels are fucking Randall Grichuk, CJ Crone, Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly.
No, not Lance
No.
Lynn.
No, not Lance Lynn and Joe
Landon
Kelly.
Kelly went to
Lucas
the Dodgers.
Giolito and
Landon
Reynaldo
Grichuk.
Lopez. Hey, it's a great trade deadline in 2017.
Yeah, turn back the clock.
yeah.
I mean, otherwise,
We also got to talk about it. Unless something happens here, which it could, the Red Sox, have done nothing. I mean, Yankees got the great Canyon Middleton. The Red Sox haven't done anything.
I don't know what.
is Trevor
behind
Story
whom
back?
doesn't- Yeah, he's coming. He's rehabbing. So I think they'll probably say like that's our move.
Well,
They
the thing-
traded Kike, a week ago for but like they haven't really done anything.
I didn't
Maybe-
really
maybe they
expect them.
shouldn't.
I didn't really expect them to do a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean they're in a tough spot. They're in a spot like
Hyman-
the Yankees where you're like,
Heim's not that dumb. Like I don't think he's gonna go for broke here, like just to get them into the wild card, like for sure. I don't know. I do like what they have building. I actually don't like that. It kills me inside, but they have more of a direction than the Yankees right now. That's for sure.
What's weird about this year's Red Sox is I don't think they planned on being this good. I think the plan was sign a few free agents in the offseason. We'll evaluate at the deadline, probably unload a few assets. I think that the way they've played, they can still find their way into wild card position without having to they can find themselves in wild card position without having to add a ton of assets at the deadline, which is I don't think they wanted to do.
Yeah, Barstool Hubs tweeted that Brian Cashman's a war criminal. That's not a joke.
So we got strong feelings here, guys.
We do.
Yeah, real strong sentiments here on the Barstool Baseball Trade Deadline Show. We're a little bit 5 minutes after the deadline. We're going to stick around for another 10 minutes and chop up these stories and get in for the podcast recap show, which we will publish as soon as it's available. This has been the live reaction show, running over 2 hours here. And the Eduardo Rodriguez story of the Tigers having a deal in place for him to go to LA, to bring it to him to find out that the family on the East Coast is too much for him to go to the Dodgers. KS Lion may give it back to you, man. You're broken. You're all fucked up, dude. Stay strong.
Well, it's too bad he doesn't have an opt-out in 2 months. He could go back to the East Coast wherever the fuck he wants. So I don't buy that. You want to be a baseball player, you got to move around. Sorry, it's tough. Life in the league is really difficult, man. It's not easy. You got to make some difficult decisions. And if you really cared about actually being on a good team, helping the organization he currently plays for, he would have waived that. Sorry, I get it. Family matters. I understand it. He's gone through some personal issues. I'm not going to knock him for all that shit. I think that is a lame excuse. And I can not think of a single instance in which this has happened in the history of the sport. Can you remember? I mean, can you imagine it fucking 2 years ago when you guys traded Chris Bryant and him saying, no, I'm staying. I know he didn't have a no trade, but I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here. I will fuck over the organization I'm currently at because I want to stay in the East Coast. All right. Good work. Here's what I'll say. He better be, because I will rescind everything I'm complaining about right now. He better be freaking good this year, next year if he opts back into his contract, and for the years after. He better be fucking Kershaw in his prime to justify this, because this is a very brutal. Go ahead. Here we go.
I was just saying, I thought Clemmer had one.
We have a location for Eduardo Rodriguez. Chris, hold on to your hats, buddy. Tigers did not trade Eduardo Rodriguez. Ken Rosenthal reports. So he is officially staying.
Kenny.
Ken Rosenthal. Hey, he's been out in the trenches for decades. I mean, somebody's going to say it's going to be Ken. You're going to believe it. Sorry, Chris.
No, I believe it. I believed it at 6:00. I believed it the second he said, I don't want to play in LA.
I can't believe, like you said, go Chris. You were absolutely right, and this is really an indictment on the Tigers front office. You are looking at these deals. You have packages come in. You're talking to teams. You don't talk to your player first, especially a veteran like that obviously has a 10-team no trade. You're not calling those other 19 teams first. What are you doing? And then you, like you said, Chris, aren't you talking to the player? He's not involved at all. What's going on over there?
This is at least the second time in recent history in which arguably Verlander probably overshoots that, in which one of the 3 to 5 most valuable trade assets at the deadline played for the Tigers and did not get traded. It worked out so well with Matt Boyd, who ended up being the worst pitcher during the COVID year and has blown out his arm twice in the last 3 years. And now it's Erod. So hope it goes well, man. He better be great.
The White Sox say they are not rebuilding and plan to contend next season.
Come on, dude. I'm not listening to anything they have to say right now. They can shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to listen to whatever teams talk about their future plans right now, maybe that's what was going through their head as they were making these decisions, is next year would be nice if we were competing, but can't compete this season.
The return for Dominic Leone is a guy named Jermaine Jackson.
This has been the Barstool Baseball Trade Deadline Show. How much longer? We're at 2:08 in the corner. How long? You guys want to give us another 5?
We go to 15, maybe.
Yeah, go to 15. Let's go to 15.
Bob Nightingale is saying that the Tigers need to sit down with Eduardo and maybe rework the contract, and maybe make it so, maybe give him a couple of years in the back end, and maybe you take that player option out. Maybe he's the guy that you kind of go with for a few years, Chris.
If they find, and this is very rare in baseball, if they rework the contract and make it so that he is actually here for 5 years as opposed to opting out at the end of the season, I will rescind a lot of my criticism because he is a piece. He's a good major league pitcher. I don't think he's a 1. His career numbers have proven that. If that's the case, all right, I think that has a very small percentage chance of happening, quite frankly. I think that means so in 2 months now, they're going to have to restructure a deal that he signed just under 2 years ago. That's all right. If you come out of that with that, if you finagle things a little bit, I'll feel a little bit differently. But Occam's razor would have just been you trade him for prospects today. You know, you had 2 months to look forward to this shit.
How do we feel about this trade deadline as a whole, guys? I think this was kind of a bust.
I'll be honest.
I wouldn't say total bust.
Yeah.
We had Verlander get moved, but I give this trade deadline like a C-.
The total moves in the last 48 to 72 hours have been enjoyable. The last 2 hours, the last 2 hours, not. Teams moved quicker. Again, I don't know where Major League Baseball stands on the trade deadline as a functioning tool. Do they like a trade limit and they like trades at a certain point in the season, but do they like, do the decision makers like front offices being up against the wall with 5 minutes left? Do we want to trade this guy or that guy?
Oh, one deadline at the deadline. We got one. Just name players. Marlins are acquiring Josh Bell from the Guardians for Gene Segura and Khalil Watson.
I like that one a lot.
All right, good work, Marlins.
I like that one a lot.
Look at the Marlins Kim Ng trying to do something last minute. All right.
They got Jake Berger today, and they went out and got Josh Bell.
That's some good thump.
They had one of the best days to me. If we're talking in this today, outside of Houston, the team that got better, I think that they belong right in that category.
Josh Bell's only owed $16.5 million next year too. So you get a decent 33-year-old, 34-year-old first baseman next year that hits from both sides of the plate. And he's a nice complementary piece to hit either in front of or behind Soler.
There's a few. Looks like there's some conflicting of what actually was sent. Rosenthal says Garrett Cooper's in the deal.
This is
Passan is saying Segura and Watson. Rosenthal misspoke and said Padres. He meant to say Marlins, but so Passan is saying Segura and Khalil Watson, who's an infield prospect. Rosenthal is saying Garrett Cooper, their first baseman.
By the way, the prospect the Mets got for the horrible Dominic Leone is Jeremiah Jackson, who's their 9th best prospect.
Mets just made one more trade. The Mets have acquired Adam Kolarek and Phil Bickford from the Dodgers for cash.
I like Bickford.
I thought Bickford got released. I thought he got DFA'd.
We're just trying to fill because look at that rotation right now. You see, I guess
you just need arms. Yeah.
Our depth is trash now. Like if it wasn't already.
You guys are going to have a hard tank these last 2 months. Guys are going to get rest. You're going to see Francisco Lindor is going to get weekends off. Well, the Mets in September could be one of the worst teams in baseball based on this pitching staff.
If the Mets, I disagree with that a little bit, just because we have guys like Alonso, Lindor. You're right. Some of these guys might sit.
That's what I'm saying.
If the Mets lose 90 games, I have to get a Mets tattoo because the bet made with Frank. So,
oh shit, that'll be a storyline to watch.
I'll be watching for that.
What would it be and where on your body? Has that been decided?
It can be whatever I want Mets related. It's going to be Mr. Met running, and it's going to be on my leg.
Can he at least, Mr. Met? Can you give him Darren Ruff's uniform number?
I'll give him Darren Ruff's cock.
Big one. Darren Ruff got a big one,
Big piece.
Yeah, huge old meaty one. This is the Barstool Baseball trade deadline show. We got just a couple of minutes here left as these trades are leaking out. Any leakage? No Dylan Cease leakage. Orioles, Jack Flaherty, very disappointing. I'm more disappointed in the Orioles than I am in the Reds, but equally, maybe not equally. I'm more disappointed in the Orioles than the Reds, but not by much.
I expected more from the Orioles.
Me too.
I get the Reds not doing anything. Not that I get it. If I were running their team, I would do differently. But
quick narrative about these two teams. Okay, the Reds in 2021 went 83-79. In 2022, they went 62-100. Last year, the Orioles went 83-79. This year, they're fucking killing it. The Reds had a 62-win stopgap in between going 83-79. They had a positive win win loss. What they were above 500 in the COVID season. They went 83-79, then 62-100, and now they're successful. I would argue the 62-100 after the 83 game win season gives you another fresh fucking reminder that these things don't come around very often. Where I think Orioles fans are walking around, or the Orioles are walking around a little bloated, being like, "Well, we're really fucking good. We don't have to go all on this trade deadline,"
which I think is so stupid. I think that they made a real mistake because at least the Reds are in a different spot where even with the deadline being what it was, I still think, and Clemmer might disagree with this, I still think the Reds can win that division. Can they win? No, they didn't make any moves to win the World Series, win the pennant. The Orioles have World Series aspirations, or at least they should with the season they've had up to this point. So I look at what the Reds in this case didn't do, and I might be disappointed, but I'm shocked by the Orioles. I mean, I just think that
separate trades, by the way.
Yeah, it is. Garrett Cooper ended up going to the Padres for Ryan Weathers.
Ryan Weathers. So the Marlins went and got Ryan Weathers. And
Sean Reynolds and Garrett Cooper for Ryan Weathers. Yep. So it's 2 trades. So Marlins got really busy really late.
And they got
Marlins were working all fucking trade deadline. Wow.
right?
Good on them. I like see
Hey,
that.
Kim Ng is a bad one. She's coming for
yeah.
you, man.
You want to see a difference of how organizations are run right now? Like the Orioles, kind of, Jack Fire, whatever. Marlins in a significantly worse spot than the Orioles, and don't have a ton of money to spend. They make moves. They try to make their offense happen, and good for them.
And they kept their farm system intact. The Jake Berger deal was the biggest, loss for them, I guess, from a free agent rookie perspective. And not only that, but the Marlins are tied for the last wild card spot with the Brewers and Diamondbacks. So, I think the Marlins get a thumbs up from me today.
To me, with the day they just had, they put themselves. I think they jumped those 2 teams with the pieces they just added to their roster.
Boys, this is a Barstool Baseball Show. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in for this live stream. This is the first time we got the panel together for a live stream. Obviously, we'd like to do more of this stuff. So if you've enjoyed this, maybe we'll kick it around for a Sunday night power ranking show. And obviously, as trade deadline stuff comes. But thank you guys very much for participating in this. We had some great chat, guys.
Yes.
Poopy Pants.
MVP of the chat for me is my guy Meech.
I'm gonna take Gabagool and his 4 slices from Celeste. That was my MVP. We're going to go record a quick roundup podcast, kind of synthesize the last 2+ hours of trade deadline news. We'd appreciate if you guys would subscribe to the YouTube page that we've got here. And then obviously keep your eyes peeled for the podcast. It'll be out as soon as we can. And lastly, thank you to the panel. Like talking baseball with you guys. Excited to do some more of it.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Okay. Until next time, boys, we'll see you.
Later, guys.